Greetings, Battle Brothers. It's me, Aurelia Tempris, Defender of the Golden Throne and Servant of Humanity. Thank you, Dino Fan, right off the bat, gifting a sub to Rosario. Thank you so much, my dude. That was very kind of you. You pre-watched? It's a good video? Good. I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to this. When I when I started my Warhammer journey, this is before I was a VTuber. Bricky's videos were one of the first videos I watched, and I liked them. They're good. At least, like, I enjoyed them. I know there's a lot of people have a bunch of consternation towards how accurate those first videos are. I don't think it's like warranted. Oh, hang on, 1 second. Thought we fixed that. I was probably like that all day yesterday. Oops. Oh well, it's fine. So I'm excited that he has felt compelled to release another video. It's a long video and it's part 1. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Greetings, welcome in, welcome in. We'll chat for a little bit before we get into the video. But this is bound to be very good. You will love this. Good. I'm looking forward to it. I'm very excited. This is gonna be awesome. How's everything sounding? Is it good? Is Bricky here now? Probably not. No. Unlikely. Man is a busy man. He's got so many things to do. He runs his own merch company. He's got tons of stuff going on. No, don't gift him. You did gift him a sub. James. Why, James? James. Why did you do that? Why did you do that, James? I appreciate it, man, but I don't want him to get the wrong idea. I don't want him to get the wrong idea. Yes, you can technically gift subs to people that aren't, like, available, that aren't on the stream. But don't do that. Don't go out of your way and do that specifically. Sometimes it sets a bad precedent. It sets a bad precedent. Because then people will think I told you to do that, and then it becomes dicey. Because they'll be like, oh, Aurelia told them to do that. That's how she gets clout. And it's like, no, not at all. I don't want that. I'm just here to vibe. We shall make the brick come to you and enjoy with you. It's his own video. I don't think he's the same as, like, a fan with too much time who loves, like, people reacting to his content. I don't think he hates it, but I don't know if he goes out of his way to go watch these things. I don't know. I've never asked. You're just overthinking it. If you don't gift the sub, then you had no control of it. That is technically true. But how you present yourself is everything. So people's perception really matters. So even if I didn't actually do anything, but people think I did, you see where it goes. So that's why I say in advance, like, please don't do that. There's nothing that it can be done for now. It's different because I have interacted with Bricky. He did pop up on one of my streams, so it's not completely out of the blue. Dude, feeling it, Aurelia. Oh, I know that's why that's not working. Oh, I'm sorry. I will redeem you your money. That one is not gonna work. Let me fix that. I need to upload the assets, and I didn't do that. Let me turn that one off, and I will give you your money back. Your money off. There we go. The other ones should work. I don't know. Now I'm not sure. Thank you, Too Bright. I appreciate it. He'll always bury his head under 9 pills when someone tries to watch his content. Yeah, no, it's... I understand that. Yeah, when someone, like... Even when someone says they watched my shorts on YouTube, like the shorts I made that were, like, really cringe and awkward, I'm like, oh gosh, please, no, no, no. No, no, you didn't see those, actually. You've never seen them. It's like Men in Black, and I hold up the cylinder, and I'm like, hey, look into this. And then I'll erase your memory. I'm not about it. I'm not about it, man. Only one way to find out, bro. Bro. Oh, JD, thank you so much for your support for 4 months. Thank you so much, man. I don't have access to recommending games. Can I give you a request here? Yeah, sure, Gon. Thank you for the bits. I can't promise I'm gonna get to all of them. I already have a backlog of games, and I'm dragging my feet on Dawn of War. So yeah. The guys from Dice Check, that did tabletop Warhammer content with Bricky did a reaction. Oh gosh, first 2 videos for April Fools. That... I would be so embarrassed. I would be so embarrassed. I would be so embarrassed. That was me. I can't say I blame him. Yo, Dino Fan. Dino Fan. Dino Fan just coming in here gifting subs. Gifting subs to the people. Thank you, man. Get neuralized. Yes. Ooh. There you go. I've got my code red here today. No gamer subs. Discount code Aurelia. Not right now, but later. Needed some caffeine today. I did sleep surprisingly well, so I just needed a little bit more time. I just needed like 30 more minutes. I was like, if I get 30 more minutes, then I can get everything else done. Because I forgot I needed to make a thumbnail, and I was like, oh no. Because we changed the topic for today. Are we locking in? Yeah, we are locking in. It is a long video. That's what the code red's for. We're locking in. Look, if I can sit through a fan with too much times videos, like, we can watch any video at that point. We can watch every other video. Yo, Laminus, thank you so much for the 5 gifted memberships on the YouTube side. Thank you, man. That's nice of you. You don't... Thank you. That was very sweet of you. I had my gamer subs with Diet Cranberry and some orange juice today. Only 70 calories for the Giant Mechanicus subs cup. Oh, yeah. There's, if you guys hadn't heard about it, there is, I don't know if they're still available. I think they are. There is a Mecha Waifu Gamer Subs Cup. You should use my discount code if you want it. It's pretty cute. Oh no, it's sold out. I'm so sorry. It's sold out. Wow. I apologize. It was Mechanicus coded. It's sold out now. Dang. Dang. Okay, well then on the other side of it then, Bricky has released new he has like a new set of merch for gamer subs. You should use, okay, you should buy his stuff, and then you should also use his code. You should use his code for that. I believe it's just Bricky. But yes. You should get Bricky's stuff. Sweet 6-pack. I really like that flavor. There's like it's on pre-orders right now. There's a desk mat, there's a jug. Yeah, use code Bricky. Use his code to buy his merch. That's only fair in my opinion. So use his code, get his stuff. Kind of cool art though. There's a muscular lady on it, so there's that. If you like muscular ladies, there is one on there. So enjoy, I guess. A brick of culture, yes. Yes. Yeah, I'm so sorry that I misled you. They sold out fast then. They sold out really fast if that's the case. Because they released it, I guess they released it like 2-3 weeks ago, so I guess it's not too surprising. Yeah. Might finally get a shaker cup. I like the shaker cups because I used to just mix my gamer sups in like a regular drink, like a glass, and I get like a straw or a spoon, and it takes forever to like fully mix it, to mix like the different like powders. And the shaker cup it takes less than like 20 seconds if I give it a good shake. If I just go really hard and I shake it, like, nah, it's done so fast. It also helps because before I would just have creatine in my water. So when I work out now, I put my creatine and gamer sups in it, and it mixes up the creatine so much better. I would rather want your stuff over Bricky's. Yeah, I'm excited for the future and having Armored Girl merch. That's gonna be amazing. I'm looking forward to that, because how many VTubers do you know that are decked out in full armor? There's like consistently decked out. I know some people have gotten outfits that have armor, like for Monster Hunter Wilds, people have gotten like outfits commissioned, but like consistently decked out in full armor, me. Me and maybe one other girl that I'm aware of. There might be another. There's probably a couple I don't know about. But yeah, I can't wait for that. I shake so hard the cup explodes. Well, don't do that. Don't do that. Which sport? Oh, no, I did used to play sports, but I don't anymore. Like I played in school, so it's just for my own like fitness, because I want to have nice toned arms and legs. So I take that because I want to be a little more muscular. Yeah, it was really cool. The other week I was out with a friend and this lady walked by and oh my gosh, she looked amazing. Like she had beautiful, like she had muscular arms and her thighs. Like she looked so good. And I like looked over, I was like, oh my gosh. And she sat near my friend and I was like, okay, I need to like ask her what she does for workouts or like any advice from her, because she looks so good. Like heart aflutter. No, it wasn't like that. I purely wanted like tips and recommendations, because she looked great, and like also the outfit she was wearing was like my style, so I was like, oh my gosh, she looks so good. And so she was really sweet, because I ended up, when there was a moment, I looked over at her and I asked her, I said, hey, like I'm so curious, like pardon me, like you look amazing, like you're like you just look great, your body is goals, like do you have any recommendations on like building muscle and stuff? And she gave me these recommendations. Well, first off, she said she does it competitively. I don't know what she does, because I didn't want to bother her too much, but she said she does it competitively, and she has 3 recommendations. She says, first, give up alcohol. She says that helps a lot. She said drink over a gallon of water every day. And then the last part, which was the funny part, and she's like, just lift heavy things. You're not gonna bulk up. Well, as a girl, you're not gonna bulk up. So she said, just lift heavy things all the time. And I was like, you know what? That makes sense. Okay. So if you guys needed recommendations, those are the recommendations. Lift heavy things. No alcohol is easy. Drinking water, it's over. I don't know what to tell you, man. But you know how you can drink more water? You know how you can drink more water? With discount code Aurelia. With gamer sups, you stay way more hydrated that way. So use that code. I want that sweet 6-pack. Yeah, see, my problem isn't alcohol. It's that I like Mountain Dew way too much. And that is probably the thing that might be holding me back. It's probably holding me back, but it's fine. It's fine. But, discount code Aurelia. But if you're buying Bricky merch, use discount code Bricky. Please and thank you. Get that man his money. Astartes Anonymous just released an Angron video. It's so good. Oh, good to know. Thank you for the bits. Yeah, sugary drinks are what mess people up. Yeah, I know. It's fine. It's fine, though. Look, I work out to maintain and maybe get, like, increase my gains a little bit. It's mainly for maintenance. Because I don't mind being able to, like, as good as it would be, I like being a happy individual where I can eat whatever I want. I don't want to feel terrible about getting Taco Bell as long as I did my workout. So I will, it's okay. I'll manage it. Do I have my water and snacks nearby? Yes. I have my water bottle, and then I have my Code Red. I got Code Red before this stream so that I could enjoy it. We'll start here. We'll start here in a second, I think. We're about 20 minutes in. No, that's 15 really. So we should probably start soon. I don't want to keep people forever, but I do like to, you know, warm up the crowd, you know, with all of my hilarious jokes. Oh, wait. Oh, I do have a list of stories. Wait, let me look at my story list. Is there anything that I can talk about? Oh my gosh. Okay. I have a story. It's not my story. It's a friend's story, but it was hilarious. So I was hanging out with one of my friends on Discord, and my friend, my friend basically has contractors that, like, work at her job. And so these contractors, they basically, like, help, like, sell stuff for their company. Contractors, salesmen, they're kind of both, one and the same. So the contractor had kind of, like, vanished off the face of the earth for, like, several weeks. They didn't know what happened, but, you know, she didn't really care. Her and, like, her co-workers that they were that, like, work with him. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, it's like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. It's late. Like, it's a really unusual time to get a work email from someone. At least, like, for her anyways. And so this contractor sends an email, and it's like, hey guys, like, da-da-da-da-da, and, like, kind of goes through a spiel. And he's like, I'm sorry I've been out of the, like, I've not been around for so long, but don't worry. And I kid you not, I swear, I saw the email. I was sent a screenshot of the email. He said in parentheses, don't worry, Daddy's back, with a winky face. In a professional setting. And to be fair, the team was mostly guys. The team's, like, primarily all guys. So it, like, we deduced the man was inebriated in some form. You know, it was mostly guys. It was mostly guys. So don't worry. My friend found it hilarious and was like, what the actual heck? Bro really posted that on main. like I was dies of cringe. Yeah, I know. I was sitting there and I was like, there's no way. And they're like, here, look at the email. And I looked at the email and it was it said that. And it wasn't just because when she first told me, it was like, oh, Daddy's back. I was like, oh, wow, that's cursed. And then it was like the winky face after that. I'm like, that is terrible. That's absolutely terrible. Why would you do that? Who hasn't said that on main? Okay, but, like, think of it this way. It's different saying it to your friends. If you say it to your bro, you're like, hey, bro, Daddy's back. Like, that's different. than like saying it in a professional business setting. So I asked my friend, I said, hey, can I tell that story to other people? I won't use anyone's names. Can I tell them that story? Because that is bonkers. I would die. I would die before I ever did that. I would simply pass away. I can tell you I've heard way worse. That's fair. And I know certain environments are more conducive to better and more inappropriate jokes. Some of them are hilarious. But that one, I was just so surprised. I was so surprised. I mean, their team is chill, so it doesn't much matter, but whew. Man, it reminds me of that one dude on here who used the alt with a lewd name. Yes, I do remember that guy. I don't think that is his alt, actually, though. Thank you, ALJ, for the super chat. I was discussing it with a friend. He's a notorious... He just pops into VTuber streams. He does that. We looked into it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We should actually probably get to the video now. Did we like that story? Was that a good story? It was, oh my gosh, so cursed, but it was incredible. Incredible. Okay, let me switch the screens. Okay. Bro, why is my screen getting all messed up? That's kind of weird. I don't know why it's doing that. Anyways, 1 second. Okay. We have it. The Brickster. The Brick Man. Brick Dude. That guy. We ready? I'm so excited. As I said, for those of you who weren't here yet, I got into Warhammer through a friend. I played Dungeons and Dragons. I found out about the legendary Sanguinius, fell in love. Several years later, I decided to read one of the books. And after I read the books, I was like, well, I need to know more about this universe. Bricky's videos were one of like the first videos I ever like watched on this. And I really enjoyed them. I laughed quite a bit. I do remember. And then slowly but surely, I became obsessed with Warhammer and decided to become a VTuber as a result, because I talked about it way too much with my friends and they were getting tired of my shenanigans. They're like, Aurelia, go talk to strangers on the internet about it. And I'm like, okay. And so here we are. So yes, I'm a huge fan of the Bricky videos. So I'm happy that he has released another set for us to sit here and enjoy. I'm going to turn some redeems off. There we go. I think we should be good. Want to give the respect to the bricks. So your friends are heretics? No, they're not heretics. They like the Warhammer like series too, but they're just I was talking a lot. If you've watched any VTuber or any streamer for that matter, you know there's like an innate desire to just yap all the time. I was yapping to them quite a lot. I was reading the books and be like, guess what happened in the book? And then I would tell them everything that happened in the book. It just sort of word vomited. So they're not heretics. They just have free time that they value. They have free time that they value. Okay, we will start it. We're gonna do a little quick check on the audio, and then we'll do it. What do you think of lots of VTubers getting into Warhammer by Bricky? I'm happy. Like I like the videos. They're great, and honestly, it's cool that more people are finding out about it. I do have thoughts about that in particular, but we don't need to get into that now. But like new people finding the hobby is good. So As long as they're not going like crazy, I'm happy. I'm happy. Okay, so let's do a quick check of the audio.
Brightness of the far past, there was no war.
Okay. Did we like that? Was it too quiet? Was it too loud? How did we feel for those like 4 seconds? Do we like that? It looked like I already had it set up to a really nice spot, so I think I do the same thing talking to my mom about 40k. She has no idea what I'm talking about, yeah. Can we get more seconds? It seemed like it was good based on the bar. Okay. All right, we'll start it over. I'll give it a tiny boost, like a tiny smidge. And I apologize in advance. We will be pausing this a lot, I am sure. So, before we get started, please, please, please. Oh man, I don't have a Bricky thing. Please go follow Bricky. He has 2 YouTube channels. He has one that he streams from, one that he releases his videos on, and then go follow him on Twitch. He's awesome. He spent a lot of time putting this together, so please give him a follow. Smash that like button for him. He's cool. He's a cool dude. I got to chat with him for a little bit about a month and a half ago, and he's a really chill, awesome dude. So please go support him. All right, I'm done. Let's do it.
In the kind brightness of the far past, there was no war. Our galaxy was, for a long time, fairly empty and quiet. The first known species to appear during this time are known only as the Old Ones, cosmic entities that traveled across the galaxy with ease and seeded life through the stars. Shortly thereafter, a new species began to arise. The Necron-Tyr, evolving under the harshness of a devastatingly powerful star.
He gets right into it. The
short-lived and irradiated Necron-Tyr try to find the secret to eternal life and to be freed from their terrible existence. As they expand through the stars, they find the Old Ones, and they plead to them to share the secrets of the universe and grant them purchase from their short and painful existence. The Old Ones respond with a lol and a lamau, and with their immense
lol. Guess I'll die.
power, they force them back to their homeworld. The Necron-Tyr, filled with rage and hatred, make it their duty to get revenge on the Old Ones. A revenge that would come swiftly as a chance encounter with other gods gave them a solution. These other gods were known as the Catan, a race of highly powerful star-consuming entities. Do not fear, young mortals, for we, the Catan, will
I'm sorry, I just noticed Bricky got the gray sweatpants on. Why did he make that call? Can we ask Mr. Bricky, why the gray sweatpants? Sir. I know he has legs this time around. Yeah, he grew his own legs. He grew his own legs. Yeah, you're right. His beard is not gray. It's just unpainted. He needs to get that painted. Gotta finish up your minis. Finish your minis, by the way.
Provides you with the immortality you seek. Come now, won't you shake a poor sinner's hand? Quoted from Mephetron, the Deceiver. The Necron-Tyr accepted the Catan's offer of immortality, but believe it or not, this turned out to be a ruse. A trick. The Catan crafted gigantic furnaces and began the process of biotransference.
Yeah,
the Necron-Tyr willingly walked line by line into the furnace engines made by gods who devour stars. And
until they didn't, most of them, a lot of them just like did do biotransference, but there was a lot of people that were not interested. Like Orican, if you read The Infinite and the Divine. Dude, it's pretty messed up. there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on. Like if you read what is it called? Silent King. Is it the Silent King? Yeah. Dude, let me tell you, Red Marshals and the terrifying things they did to people to make them go through biotransference. Oh my gosh. Terrible. Terrible. It's so messed up. It's so messed up. Oh, not Silent King. You meant Twice Dead King. Yeah, I'm sorry. We're getting warmed up. I haven't had enough Code Red. 1 second. Twice Dead King. I meant that. Thank you.
Had their souls consumed instead. The short-lived, irradiated, and cancer-inflicted race of the Necron tier ceased to be, and the immortal, soulless Necrons remained. Now backed by the immense power of the Catan, the Necrons rally against the Old Ones, and the bitter conflict in the stars at this time is known as the War in Heaven. Despite creating various races and entities to aid them in this battle, the Old Ones are overwhelmed and eradicated down.
He did show the frog people. I'm sad. The toad-like beings that are the Old Ones. This is not a critique. I'm just like, I like seeing those blubbery little guys. They make me laugh.
To the last, due to the sheer power of the Catan, fat off the souls of the Necron tier, and with an army of unthinkable robotic slaves at their behest. However, the Catan are greedy, spiteful gods, and when there was no foe worth killing, they turn on each other. The Necrons then put their sights towards the Catan and lay waste to them, securing their freedom. The once subservient Necrons now control their former masters.
Good
Worn
for
out
them.
and weakened by these wars, the Necrons, under their leader Zarek, the Silent King, lie
the Silent
dormant,
King.
with a plan to eventually wake and reclaim control
Not
over the
Twice
galaxy.
Dead King. Very
Over
different.
millions of years, empires rise and they fall. The species created by the Old Ones have footholds over the galaxy, but on a pale blue dot, in the thick of all this conflict, humanity begins to evolve.
Yeah.
And for the most part, the basic path of humanity's evolution remains the same as it is now for almost 15,000 years. Right now, in the 21st century, this
is really stupid. I took an astronomy class one time, and I feel like I know where this, like, observatory is, because it's a set of them, and oh man, I feel like I know, but I just can't remember, and it's bothering me. Sorry, it's not Warhammer related, just a nagging in my brain.
Is canon. You, right now, Twitch streamer reacting to this video, you...
Hi, Bricky! I mean, he knew this was gonna happen. He knew this was gonna happen. So many people reacted to his video, of course. Incredible. Hey man, how's it going?
Existed at a point in the Warhammer universe.
He knows.
But with time, humanity's ambition and the power of their technology becomes unmatched, and the golden age of expansion begins. Humanity starts to branch out through the stars with powerful tools used for agriculture, mining, and expansion. Some branches of humanity would eventually settle far away from Earth itself, and around this time, the psychic ability of humans are greatly expanded, and what we begin to know as psychers appear. But despite all the progress, things would begin to collapse. The machines created to aid humanity would turn on them in M23, an event known as the Cybernetic Revolt, and trade would begin to collapse due to the immaterial warp, aka actual hell, beginning to cause ruptures in space and time. These warp
Not Cleveland. Not Cleveland as actual hell. That's how he imagines it to be. Cleveland, oh no!
Stones would separate
Sent
humanity,
him to
and this
Detroit.
would be what is known as the Age of Strife. The warp, a sea of souls, storing all thought, emotion, and the souls of those who have passed on begin fluctuating into something terrible, as far on the horizon, something horrendous was brewing. You
Your
see, the
mom.
warp isn't just a random assortment of chaotic energy. It is fairly well organized thanks to those living in the galaxy. The warp itself acts as an afterlife of sorts, and the actions of the innumerable amount of creatures who live in the galaxy have manifested a pantheon of organized entities known as the Forces of Chaos. At their helm are three major entities, Khorne, Nurgle, and Tzeentch. However, a fourth
Codex
one,
pictures.
Slaanesh,
I like
was
that.
about to be born. The ancient Eldar were one of the first species.
He got that booty though. Look at him. The first thing I saw, that booty. This is cool art. This is some of the older art. I like it. He's a little caked up over here.
She's created by the old ones, and due to their extreme and unbridled excess, the birthing of Slaanesh tore a hole in the galaxy and forever split the Eldar into those of the craft world who sought to bring their species
I will
back
say they
together.
definitely make the Eldar, with this picture, you definitely think the Eldar are like silly little guys, even though like Harlequins are like no slouch. They're no slouches. Those guys will jack you up. Cause see, this is what I would normally expect to see, but this makes them look all like silly and dumb. They will mess you up, man.
Together, and those of the Drukhari, who wish to continue what caused the birth of Slaanesh in the first place. The birthing of this fourth chaos god settled the warp storms of the Immaterium and ended the age of strife, but humanity was still fractured. So one man revealed himself and spearheaded an immense attempt to reunite all the fractured pieces of humanity. That man was the Emperor of Mankind. After reclaiming the nearly destroyed Earth, the Emperor embarked on the unification wars to unite humanity under the banner of the Imperium of Man. However, due to the very long and devastating impact of the Age of Strife, humanity as we know it is not the same. To reconquer Earth, the Emperor would need more than mere men. Great beings, known as the Thunder Warriors, were recruited by the Emperor to reclaim the Earth with ease. But these warriors are a blunt tool and had, overstayed their welcome. He would need something better, and that solution would be known as the Space Marines. Superhuman soldiers that will have the skill and cunning exponentially greater than the mortal.
Bricky loves, this is his like favorite piece of 40k like media. Of course he would use it in his video. I'd be surprised if he didn't. This is perfect.
Man. These new warriors would be commanded by an elite group of his very own sons known as the Primarchs. Unfortunately though, Daddy didn't charge the baby monitor, and his 18 sons would be stolen by the forces of chaos and scattered across the galaxy. This would begin the Great Crusade, a monumental task to take back the stars in the name of humanity and reclaim the lost Primarch sons. However, he would need the fires of industry to make this happen. Looking to the distant cousins of Mars, the Emperor signed a treaty with the technologically irradiated hellscape of the Red Planet and allowed the cult of the machine god, the Mechanicum, to supply his crusade. While Space Marines were the tip of the spear, their numbers paled to the vast might of the Imperium.
I never understood why the Emperor ordered the death of the Thunder Warriors. It was for multiple reasons. One of them being that their genetics were just generically, they were unstable. So they were prone to like bouts of like rage, and they would just start killing each other. It was bad. So that is one, it is one of many reasons, but that's a big one. He basically wanted a stable set of warriors, and you could argue that some of the Space Marine legions aren't very stable to begin with, but that was like a huge deal because the Thunder Warriors would just, like most of them would be fine, but then just over time their bodies would deteriorate, and all of that gene manipulation that was like wrought would slowly deteriorate, and they would just start going insane. So they weren't as reliable as you'd like them to be. That was, I think this was in Valdor, Birth of the Imperium. That's where I got that knowledge. So, you basically want more down-to-earth Space Marines that won't just, like, freak out and start tweaking for some reason. And, yeah, some of them, well, that's the main reason. They also did revolt, so there's also that, but it's complicated. Yeah, tweaking is a very nice way of putting it.
Imperial Army and Navy, the Astra Militarum, and their seemingly endless numbers make up the bulk of the fighting force for humanity, supplied by the intelligence and prowess of various agents of the Imperium, such as rogue traders and assassins. Due to the lack of connectivity between the worlds, what a society had become over thousands of years became mysterious and varied. Tools once used for harvesting and agriculture now are being used as machines of war in the form of Imperial Knights. Some of these fractures of humanity would even be changed further and become unrecognizable to the average human, with differences in size, skin color, appendage,
or ears, abhumans, you know the abhumans that have really like pointed long ears like me? Like you've heard of them, right? Me? See, it's perfectly normal, understandable. Even if Bricky didn't say it, they do exist. They do exist, okay?
Inches. Cat ears, sometimes. Some would go so far to become their own galactic societies, like the miners of the Galactic Core and their immense supercomputers, forming the Leagues of Votan. After an incredible amount of effort and books, the lost sons of the Emperor would be reunited, and the Imperium of Man would be firmly established. This, however, would not last. Be it intentional or accidental, the Emperor would not reveal to his sons the true nature of the galaxy and the terrors of the warp. And this oversight would result in one of the most
It was an oversight, but I think it was definitely intentional. Dude, we're only 10 minutes in. Holy cow. He's covering a lot. He's covering a lot.
Impactful wars in humanity's history. The favorite son of the Emperor, Horus, would fall to the powers of chaos and turn on his father. This betrayal, this backstabbing, this heresy, this Horus heresy would result...
I think I actually heard, let me make sure I have this right. I believe the actual word, it shouldn't be heresy. It should actually be the Horus apostasy, because apostasy is the act of abandoning or rejecting a previously held belief, faith, or allegiance. So GW goofed there. It should be the Horus apostasy. I remember just reading that somewhere. I was like, oh wow. I know, alliteration is king here. Like, we want our mnemonic devices so we can remember things, but yeah. We already have an age of apostasy. Look, it's just apostasy abound. It abounds here.
In a split in the Imperium with devastating consequences. Half of the
my
Emperor's
boy.
loyal sons would fall to chaos and become the Chaos Space Marines, along with the forces of the Dark Mechanicum and the Chaos Knights. The conflict would result in the absolute obliteration of Horus and the physical death of the Emperor himself. The near-dead body of the Emperor would be placed on the Golden Throne to serve as a beacon of humanity and allow for the continued ability to travel the stars, protected by his most loyal, the Adeptus Custodes.
Yeah!
The Imperium would be vulnerable during this...
The boys. I love them. They're amazing. These boys, incredible.
Age of rebirth, and Terra would find itself under siege by one of the most formidable species in the galaxy, the Orcs. As time went on and memories of the Emperor's vision began to fade, the Emperor would become less of a head of state and more of a religious figure, and the Imperium would change to reflect this. The leadership on a planet would be at the behest of the High Lords of Terra, and their...
What doesn't rhyme, ALJ? Thank you for the super chat. You mean it doesn't have alliteration if you're talking about the Horus heresy? Because that makes sense then.
Their actions would be courtesy of the incomparable power and authority of the Inquisition. The zealots of the Imperium would intensify and create a brand new era known as the Age of Apostasy. And this ecclesiarchal command of the Imperium would end up with one of the strongest fighting forces of Terra, the Adepta Sororitas. Over time, this age would come to pass, and we would approach the 40th millennium of Warhammer 40,000. Which, you guessed it, would come with its own form of problems. A primitive species once found during a recon mission would be able to evolve in relative secrecy for 6,000 years, becoming a highly advanced coalition of aliens known as the Tau Empire. And if the threats of the galaxy weren't bad enough, there are threats from outside the galaxy. As a monster has begun to wrap its tendrils around the Milky Way, the Tyranids, monsters that serve a psychic hive mind and present tactics previously unseen in the Milky Way. Be it a direct assault with their monstrous bug-like presence or through the more covert gene stealer cults, the presence of yet another threat in the galaxy is proving to be overwhelming to the Imperium. In the 41st millennium, there is no peace among the stars. At any point, your life can and will be threatened by the Xenos races uncountable, or by the arch enemy of chaos within, or by the decroded terror that is the Imperium itself. It is to live in the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable. Forget the power of technology and science, or the safety of promise and understanding. For in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.
Applaud, applaud. I do appreciate the fact that he did the whole, like, he laid out all the lore in advance. I like that. I wasn't expecting that, but I do appreciate that he did that, because it gives everyone a little more context. And now we're diving deep. We're diving deep. Yeah.
A fantastic job once again, Mr.
Conrad Kurz. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, that's terrible how he broadcasts like the, oh gosh, the worst compliances, but the least amount of death. Terrible. Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
Kurz, the Night Haunter himself. Oh, didn't you love that, my faithful audience? Once again, we have another criminal over the course of 6 hours break every single bone in his body. And with that, once again, our glorious leader has brought the crime rate to 0%. Always brought to you here on the Strawman News. I'm your host, Bricky. Thank you once again for joining us. Our top stories for tonight. The weather forecast appears to be rainy with extra dark, so make sure you pack those extra batteries for your lamp packs. And of course, let's not forget the fantastic gang violence problem we're currently having. Oh, I'm sorry. What's that?
Wait, no violence.
Oh, right. It's gone.
This is so dumb.
It's looking to be a chilly one tonight as well, so make sure your skin capes are nice and tight. Wait, hold on, one moment. No. Adamantium reserves have tripled?
What is this?
Wait, I'm sorry. Self-harm rates have gone down to 0%.
The rock. The Rock Johnson holding a rock. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, there's a lot to take in here.
The Night Haunter smiled?
Oh, that's bad. If he smiles, that means you're gonna die. You're gonna die. It's a given.
No.
No.
This could only mean one thing. It is the Strawman News' great privilege to bring some color back in your life with the brand new 3-part Gamer Subs.
There you go, guys. Use discount code Bricky to get some of his new merch. Please and thank you. Use Bricky's discount code to get his new merch. We'll skip the rest of this, but I will make sure he is shilled enough. Use discount code Bricky to get his new merch there's a muscular Drukari looking woman on it. Okay? Get that stuff, okay?
Subs for sponsoring the Strawman News, and let us move on to our next scheduled program.
Next, we're gonna watch this guy get his skin flayed off by Conrad Kurz.
5 years ago, I made every Warhammer 40k faction explained. A passion project of mine for a universe that I enjoyed so much. Its main purpose was to be a drawbridge, the separation between the layman who had only ever seen the big armored blue man situated neatly next to a Wetzel's Pretzels, and then the hardcore Warhammer lore nerd. That was just too wide, and there was nothing bridging these two together. Since 2020, Warhammer has exploded in popularity thanks to COVID, quality game updates, and a few excellent video games, and a couple mini-series. The sheer volume of people who have told me they have purchased miniatures due to that video alone makes me feel as if Games Workshop owes me commission. However, that video is incomplete. I was not a casual fan, but I was also not a hardcore lore junkie. In the 5 years since that video's release, multiple channels have sprouted up, and the drawbridge between casual to the obsessed has never been wider or easier to traverse. Even I, myself, have been a part of Adeptus Ridiculous, a podcast teaching lore in a much simpler and condensed form. Needless to say, I've learned a lot. Warhammer is so much more than just...
And one thing I will say, I think it's a lot of people give Bricky a ton of flack for his like initial videos. I've probably seen more of the extreme comments about people showing their distaste for it. They give him a lot of flack for his like first video because it's not completely accurate, and I think he does a great job illustrating it here. Yeah, no, a lot of people still do, but it's the fact that he says here, like, he was a casual fan at the time. That is something that's, like, really important. And at least he's, like, recognized, like, hey, maybe it wasn't the most accurate. And, like, that's okay. When it comes to games like this, your videos will eventually become outdated just because lore is updated, rules are updated. It, like, keeps going. But I feel like a lot of people, like, say kind of, like, mean things about it. Like, oh, man, like... I don't need to say what the comments are, but, like, I don't feel like that's very fair to him. And, like, I feel bad that he's had to, like, deal with that for something that he, like, poured his heart into. And, like, it was a video he didn't have to make. He didn't have to make it, but he did. And honestly, it's helped so many people get into the lore, but I don't know. I feel like we should be fair and reasonable when it comes to, like, our critiques and our judgment. And that's it, sorry. That's it. I always thought it was unfair because I've always seen comments about it, and I just... It kind of frustrates me because if you don't like his video, go make your own video. Okay? That's my take.
Spaceman shoots big gun. It has also grown substantially from its origins, being a Warhammer Fantasy spin-off just in space. Now, it is a black library filled with immensely deep characters, difficult themes, and even some tear-jerking stories. It is a
Some tear-jerking stories, Bricky? Some? I had a Twitter post the other day where all I did was ask, hey, tell me the books that made you cry. And I had a lot of people tell me, some. Dude, I've cried for so many stories, or screamed in anger. Only a few. Yeah.
Drop for 1 million stories over 1 million worlds, and I did not see its true depth in 2020. But now, I'd like to share what I've learned. We just had a brief summary of the world and each faction that takes place during it. And we did that because to truly understand each faction, we must understand what makes them the way they are. And to do so, we need to begin in chronological order, discussing their origins, their culture, their powers, and of course, what makes them oh so grimdark. So let's begin with the group that started it all and sing praise to the Infinite Empire.
Oh no, we're starting with the Necrons.
as mentioned before, the Necron tier were the original form of the Necrons, an alien race far away from us that lived short, painful lives due to the irradiation of their star. Normally, this would manifest as like a sort of cancer, a space cancer of sorts.
Yes.
The Necrons are very much inspired by the ancient Egyptian aesthetic, but unlike the windswept dunes commonly associated with it, the irradiated hellscape the Necrons here endured was far from picturesque. This also translates into their hierarchy. They are a race of nobles and peasants. Most of the peasants would often live for their very short amount of time, only a couple of decades, while the nobles tended to have better care and would live a little bit longer, but still
not by much,
far
though.
less than the average lifespan.
Yeah, I think they would live until about their 40s-ish. A little longer if you were lucky. 40s-ish.
And of a human, even today in the 21st century. The leader of the Necrons was Zarek, the Silent King. He was the one who took the deal with the Catan and the Deceiver. Of course, he wasn't aware of the fact that they were known as the Deceiver at the time, but the whole species.
Yeah, this guy seems very trustful. This dude, he's called the Deceiver. I bet you he's very trustworthy.
Was blinded by hate after being debased by the old ones on their quest to cure their illness. The sheer pain that underwent the Necron race can't—
Excuse me, why are you looking at Bricky's pants now? Yes, they're different, but why are you looking at his, why are you looking at Bricky's pants? Don't objectify the Brick. He may have a name that is like Brick, but that doesn't mean he's an object.
And to be understated, as their fear was manic. The Catan are, of course, gods that eat stars, and when the leader of your species tells you to march into the gigantic green furnaces to ascend to immortality, you march. The scenes from these are long lines of both the peasantry and nobles clutching their loved ones in a frantic act to save their own lives. Many of them already inflicted in the late stages of this space cancer, some of them crawling into the biotransference furnaces, trying to outrace death itself without realizing death was the one who made these to begin with. What came out the other side was a soulless husk. And I say that literally. They didn't have souls. Is not an abstract concept like it is in our world, an immaterial version of oneself discussed and debated in religion and philosophy. No, in Warhammer, a soul is a real, tangible item of oneself. And the Catan basically were just like to every single person who went in their furnaces. If you were a peasant, you came out a Necron warrior, and you as an individual have ceased to be. You have no mind, you have no soul, and your body, as you know it, is made of an extremely advanced mass of re-knitting living metal known as necrodermis. You cannot think for yourself, for you do not have a brain to think with. All you do now is await protocols from your overlords, which are the nobles who came out of the furnaces with their minds intact, not their souls, mind you, but their minds are very much intact. In case you forgot, they got munched. These nobles now have command protocols, and they are able to command all of their peasantry and do with them whatever they wish. Zarek, the Silent King, is the most advanced of all the Necrons, a perfect metallic version of himself with incredible power and intelligence. His strength allowed him to lead the undead and the unthinking armies of the Necrons to battle against the Catan when they were at their weakest due to their incessant infighting, and then win back their freedom. But gods cannot die. So in reality, what occurred is the Catan were shattered into thousands of pieces, and each shard of their god was trapped in a stasis vault and mind controlled to do the bidding of the Necrons once enslaved.
I like this video.
The biggest challenge they face now are actually the upstarts of the galaxy. The Eldar and the Orcs were quite prominent, and as you can imagine, a galactic war really takes its toll on the joints, or I guess the servos. It was in their best interest to wait out the galactic rise of the other races and come back at a more opportune time. So they went into stasis via these massive
The best
tomb
nap of your
complexes
life
hidden
ever.
beneath various worlds, biding their time until it was once again their opportunity to rule the galaxy. Zarek, the Silent King, as penance for his failure to his people, exiled himself into the darkness between stars for the next 60 million years, with his perfect memory a constant reminder of the doom he inflicted upon his people.
I didn't realize his memory was
Flash forward
perfect.
to the modern
Dang,
day, and
that's
the Necrons
terrible.
are reawakening, but it isn't working as well as it could be. Whether the tomb world is reawakened naturally or by some imperial moron stepping on a green glowing rock, the Necrons have come back to reclaim a galaxy they consider rightly theirs. But 60 million years of hypersleep have taken their toll.
Yeah,
Many
a lot
Necron
of
dynasties
deterioration.
awake with systems unrestored and huge swaths of their population's minds completely lost. Necron nobles wake with various mental faculties compromised, sometimes exhibiting traits similar to excessive paranoia, schizophrenia, or even dementia. One notable Necron, Nemesis
Oh man, I was like, oh, are we gonna talk about Twice Dead King? Ooh.
or Zandrek, believes that he is still back on his home planet fighting off separatists and interlopers. See, Oberyn, the separatists come, attempting to outflank me as they did at the 4th Battle of Vindach. How they calculate that daubing themselves green and roaring like savages will produce a different outcome, I cannot fathom. But it is of no account. Ready, my legions. Another glorious victory shall soon be ours. Other individuals, such as the esteemed Imitek the Stormlord, seek to usurp the newly returned Silent King for rightful ruler over the Necron race, believing his time has come to an end, while scientists and archaeologists like Trazen the Infinite and Orikin the Diviner spend thousands of years bickering over artifacts and petty squabbles.
Honestly, it's really
Truly,
funny.
The Necrons are a faction of unthinkable, unimaginable power, held back entirely by their own hubris and 60 million years of stasis. It is a species that does not know of time, only of the ravages brought by it. A pharaoh of a dynasty may just be as frightened to awake completely mad as they are to be assassinated while they sleep. Thousands of years pass in an instant. There is a play, like an opera play, a retelling of the war in heaven in the Necron culture.
Oh my gosh,
takes
yes.
40 years to witness, because why leave? You have no need to eat or vacate your bowels. You are immortal, but you are soulless. Despite the Necrons' incredible technology, their mastery over...
But they have because they have no soul, they have like a lack of artistry. It's really sad, because one of the things that Trazen, however you say it, was like holding on to Necron tier artifacts and art because they weren't capable of making beautiful things anymore. It's so sad, because like I think they said like they weren't particularly great at it to begin with, but like it's the only thing that they have. Artistry is just, they don't have it anymore, and that's heartbreaking.
Time, reality itself, despite all of this, they still are missing a soul. And therein lies the biggest struggle. Most Necrons look to conquest the galaxy, kill the interlopers like the humans, Eldar, and orcs that scrape at a fraction of their power. But the end goal for many, including Zarek himself, is to return the souls to their bodies.
I'm sorry,
to
man.
undo the horrible fate he cast upon them. This is not the interest of all. Many simply wish to rule their dynasty with an iron fist and kill all they consider unworthy. But to many others, it is to undo the decision that doomed them all. Before they can do that, there is a pest that needs exterminating. That is the fundamental understanding of the Necrons. They are so hyper advanced that their science borders on magic. They play with the fundamental aspects of reality and time. Their mastery of the physical galaxy is the strongest in the universe. Their weapons reduce people to the barest molecules, and they have devices capable of causing stars to supernova. They are unfathomably difficult to kill, as if you do fell one of their number, the living metal reknits itself, and the reanimation protocols allow it to come back alive once again. They're masters of teleportation, and often killing a Necron fully will just have its conscious consciousness translocated back to their tomb world to await reassembly. Normally, they utilize large phalanxes of warriors and honorary combats, but some of them have fallen to various mind viruses. The destroyer cults are hell-bent on killing anything and everyone that lives with an overwhelming force.
We're really getting into this.
And then there's the
I
flayed
love
ones. Necrons cursed with I have no mouth and I must scream, a panic attack virus.
That's what the Twice Dead King is about. If you're interested in Necron books, Twice Dead King, highly recommend it. There is Reign and Ruin. Ruin is the first one. Reign is the second one. Highly recommend. I am a huge Imperial fan, so I read all of like Imperium books. That's primarily what I read. But I read those two books and I really like the Necrons now. Like if I wasn't gonna make an Imperial army, I think I would paint Necrons. I think they're so fascinating and so cool. Highly recommend those books. You should check them out. And I particularly like the audiobooks for the voice acting. Fantastic.
As the last laugh of Landogo, the Flayer Catan, slowly losing their minds, they strip apart their foes and adorn their bodies with the skin of their enemies, trying to better return to their old feelings of flesh and blood. The Necrons are a degraded version of their mighty empire and still one of the biggest threats in the galaxy. The only thing keeping them at bay currently is their awakening sickness and their infighting with no care to the timeline. But they are coming. And slowly, they plan to rid this galaxy of the vermin that inhabit it. My people shackled the stars and broke mortality when the species you sprang from had barely left the slime pools it spawned in. Our wars burned reality, and the dominion of our kings is without limit. The ground you tread on is not yours, it is ours.
Okay, but that goes really hard.
The war in heaven was a catastrophic time for the galaxy, and as stated in the above quote, burned reality. Of course, souls exist in Warhammer, and in the case of the Necrons here, they were consumed by the star gods. This begs the question, however, if you were to pass on, expire, as one might put it, where would your soul go? The answer to this is the warp. In Warhammer, a soul is real. And so is hell, the afterlife, the Empyrean, the Sea of Souls, the Immaterium. All of these names refer to the dimension parallel to our own known as the warp. Now, the warp is not like our reality. It does not follow the classic normalcy of time and space. It is defined as the Sea of Souls, and it acts like this in a more literal way than you can realize. To imagine the warp is to imagine the sea itself. Hell is real, and you can surf on it. It has a current and can become more dangerous depending on where you go and how bad the weather is.
I love this analogy. It's a really good one.
Is a reflection of our reality and of our souls. All thoughts, all emotions, all feeling that goes with a soul is passed on into the warp. If an entire planet decides it's going to engage in a blood-fueled rampage of murder and gore, then the warp around that planet will be affected in a similar manner. It's not something that you can see. It is a parallel, not perpendicular dimension, but it is changing.
It makes me wonder, what is a perpendicular dimension? How does that one work? I will leave that to our physicists to discuss and think about. A perpendicular dimension, not ever something I've heard of before, but now I want to know what we would consider something like that to be.
To expose oneself to the warp for any period of time invites certain death outside of the most iron-willed of individuals, and to stare into it will drive one mad. Much like the open seas, things dwell in the warp. Whether these beings were always there and were just emboldened by the carnage of the galaxy, we can only speculate at. At a time, you could say it was more calm, but a certain faction's galactic war in heaven didn't do it any favors. Now the warp is turbulent, and its realms belong to a pantheon of gods known simply as The forces of chaos are beings that serve directly under their patron deity. There are 4 current gods of chaos at the moment: Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Slaanesh. Each of them represent various facets of and emotions of sentient species and play a great game against one another for total control over their realms. Interestingly enough, while their disciples have physical forms we can understand, the chaos gods do not have a physical visual that you can perceive in reality. So while there are tons of fantastic fan art, we do not know what they truly look like, though they are conveniently color-coded. Khorne is the god of blood.
We are but simple creatures. I need my color-coded chaos god so I know who is who.
And murder, carnage, and slaughter. He is the one who is most powered by the wholesale killing of any living thing. For Khorne cares not from where the blood flows. With a sacred number of 8, he is the lord of all things involving killing. If
I was gonna fall to chaos, it would be Khorne. Khorne is the most stand-up and straightforward, I think, of all of them. Yeah, I would fall to Khorne if I had to. If I had to choose, that's what I would choose. For those of you who were probably going to ask, I'm just gonna say that now.
And blood and gore. The champions are extremely strong as well, with monumental muscles and extremely large weapons. A true analog to Khorne would be his greater demon, the Bloodthirster, an enormous muscle-bound flying devil with an axe so large it splits tanks in a single swing. They move into battle with armor of brass adorned by the skulls of their foes and pools of freshly spilt blood. This may appear to be quite frightening, of course. Demonic, one might say. But in the world of chaos, all emotions feed one of these gods in one way or another. If you were to define Khorne with single words, you would use blood, carnage, murder, skulls. But you'd be missing out on important ones like strength, honor, prowess, courage, and skill. Khorne is not just about the wholesale slaughter of people. He is about the honor and power of martial combat.
And that's why I like him.
Strength there is in besting someone in physical strength and skill. Of course, a murderer would be someone who would feed Khorne, but a soldier could feed Khorne. A martial artist or professional fighter could feed Khorne. A warrior, good or bad, feeds Khorne. A diplomat does not. A premier soldier does. A GoFundMe does not. This is what leads many mortals down the path of Khorne, for he will bless those that bring him enough skulls. And in a world this destructive, there are many ways to reap a high tally for him. Prepare the dread claws and unchain the mad ones. Glorious battle awaits us today, for the world below has refused to surrender. Let us descend upon them with fury and rage, giving no quarter and sparing only those warriors who fight well enough to earn a place amongst us. As to the rest, their lives and possessions are ours, but their skulls are for Khorne. Normally,
I kind of got chills from that line. That's a really, really good line. Holy cow, I love that line.
If I ever want to explain Khorne, I just kind of show him this clip.
I'd never stab you in the back, Shepard. Warriors like you and me, straight to the face.
Moving on, Tzeentch.
I don't know what that's from, but I want to know. I want to know now where that's from. That looks great.
The god of trickery and mischief, the changer of ways, the great conspirator and the architect of fate. With a sacred number of 9, Tzeentch is truly the god of change in all of its forms.
You know what I never noticed? And I hate this now that I have noticed it. I've seen this art many times. He's got like his mouth thing here and it's got a tongue. He is holding his mouth tongue with his feet. And if I thought I was disturbed before by the face and the different maws, the tongue and the feet is, I hate that. I hate that. That's a little freaky. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Tzeentch would be a foot kind of guy. He would be interested in feet.
But there is an obvious undercurrent of mischief and cunning. Tzeentch is such a liar that his pants have gone thermonuclear.
I remember this. You dummy.
His favorite pastime is asking questions that have no answers while simultaneously making up answers on the spot to a question he didn't ask.
Have you ever had a dream that that you had you
I love
could
this kid.
you could do so you want him to do you so much you could do anything.
He is such
Oh my
a
gosh.
conniving little bastard that every emotion of lying, of scheming, of trickery is a direct way to help feed him. An unfaithful partner, a politician, a spy.
Ooh.
All these people feed Tzeentch in one way or another, and it doesn't matter if the intentions are good. Acceptance does not feed Tzeentch. Change does. Tzeentch doesn't care about your facts. He only wants opinions. Because he represents change, he also represents hope, though. Schemes are not always bad, and even the hope to make a better tomorrow is the change he seeks. Because he is the architect of fate and the mastery of sorcery, his presence is purely unknowable. Every depiction of a Tzeentchian demon contains more eyes than are necessary and more mouths than I know what to do with. It is a biblically
Yeah?
accurate
What are you
angel
doing with
if the
those mouths,
angel
Bricky?
gaslit you into thinking birds are government drones. But are they? The creature
I mean, is he wrong though? Is he wrong?
creatures at his disposal adorn themselves with the knowledge of sorceries and the unknown, all to provide a mind-crushing experience. Fighting demons from outside of our reality is difficult enough, but fighting demons from unreality, purposely attempting to trick you, is a whole new thing entirely. And that is before we even get started on the gigantic bird of sorcery you're going to need to face. Do not ask which creature screams in the night. Do not question who waits for you in the shadow. It is my cry that wakes you in the night, and my body that crouches in the shadow. I am Tzeentch, and you are the puppet that dances to my tune.
So we're basically discovering that Tzeentch is the paralysis demon at the foot of your bed. That those weird hunched forms that you see. It's Tzeentch. Okay, good to know. Good to know.
Third of the Chaos
would do
Gods
stuff
is
like that,
the
wouldn't
one
he?
of acceptance of rot and pestilence. The grandfather himself, Papa Nurgle. Nurgle is the exact opposite of Tzeentch. Where Tzeentch believes in change and hope for a future, Nurgle believes in stagnation and the end of everything.
Disgusting.
At one point or another, we will all decay.
Oh, it's
we will
so gross to
all
look at. I hate
rot,
it.
And we
Oh.
will all end. And with a sacred number of 7, every single thing, pestilence, boil, and everything in between, comes under the great shadow and girth of Nurgle himself.
the
For Nurgle,
girth.
the plight of mortals is his fear and wine. And no matter how solid life might be, everything will decay in the end. In the creation of life, there must be an end to that life. And nobody has more creations to end lives than Grandfather Nurgle himself. Every boil, every blemish, every pus-filled wound and disease, every rot and every plague is kept and concocted by Nurgle.
I don't
This
like him.
humorously keeps Nurgle as a jovial god. He is
Ooh,
full of
ew,
life
not the
and
animation.
laughter. And by creating as many diseases as he possibly can,
When Nurgle is more endowed than you are. Couldn't be me. That could not be me in the slightest.
he shares that joy with mortals. I mean, his envoy is the great unclean one. And look at how happy he is. And there's a lot of him to love. A fear of death in general is feeding Nurgle. All disease makes him stronger, but to pray for salvation for a wounded loved one is to feed Nurgle. The timeless and inevitable fear that one day you will rot and decay is what gives him strength. The Peloton won't feed Nurgle. Licking the doorknob on a public bathroom certainly does.
Oh gosh. That's terrible. I bet you Taco Bell feeds Nurgle too. What do we think? I think Taco Bell feeds Nurgle quite a bit, I think.
However, should you embrace your grandfather's gifts, you may find an end to your pain. Maybe. All mortal followers of the
Maybe.
Chaos Gods found themselves there in one way or another, either through the direct worship or the slow corrupting of their souls. But those that take Nurgle's gifts and embrace the decay of their bodies may end up being chosen among his few as a faithful servant. In doing so, you will be free of the pain caused by Nurgle's ailments, and you may even find yourself just as jovial and happy as he is.
No, you're making me feel
Maybe.
sad.
His enemies shall wither and die. His allies shall wither and die. The universe and all within it shall wither and die. And when the great corruption has settled over the land and permeated the very foundations of reality itself, then shall the Lord of all rise from the rot and ruin, spread his arms wide to reclaim all of his dutiful children. Those were the three major chaos gods for a very long time.
Yeah.
Emboldened by war and death on a galactic scale. Ever present, but now fact on the suffering of a galaxy. One race, for a while, was able to elude the pull of chaos. An advanced race of psychically attuned aliens whose master over the physical world was so strong that chaos could not glean from them the morsels of power they once had. Or so they couldn't. Not for a long while. 60 million years ago, in an attempt
There we
to
go.
combat the
More
Necrons
old
at
art.
Catan, the old ones made a new species. One with innate power in the warp and the ability to harness it with a mastery that was unseen by so many others. A mastery so powerful, the Necrons retreated to sleep in order to wait it out. It was no longer a galaxy to be ruled by them, but instead begin the age of the...
Dun, 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 dun.
The Eldar are a race of pointed-eared humanoids that are all psychically attuned.
Now, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this just once today. I am an abhuman gentleman. Abhuman. The ears are just extra pointy. I hate to disappoint you. Abhuman, not an Eldar.
To the warp. If we're being meta here, these are space elves, and these elves ruled the galaxy in the time the Necrons went to sleep and humanity began to rise. The Eldar's empire was galaxy-wide and lasted for longer than any other galactic power that we know of.
Kinda
Their
cool, though.
understanding of all things was exceptional. With every single one of
I'm
them
not
being
lying.
psychers, they had the ability to master the warp and use it to their advantage. See, being a psyker is basically like being a wizard, or I guess in this case it's more of a sorcerer, since you
Yeah.
are born with the gifts as opposed to
You have to
learning.
study
In
them.
order to utilize your psychic abilities, however, you must then reach into the other dimension, into the warp, into hell for that power. So if you were to say, cast Fireball, your mind would reach into the warp, gather the strength to rewrite reality, to then cast Fireball. Now, you might think to yourself, doesn't that mean if you are opening up a power to the warp, you may create a lot of risk
Yep.
to yourself because of all the horrible things we just
They
talked
have a
about in
cheat
the warp?
code.
Yes. However, in Warhammer 40k, willpower is a real, tangible thing, in the sense that in its own right, it can be weaponized. Being strong of will means being strong of soul, and being strong of soul means you can resist
so
the pull
cool.
of
I
the
love
warp
that.
much more. A more inexperienced psyker opens up a hole into the warp that is large, and that hole widens to get more power, allowing evil things to get in. A powerful psyker is able to open a very small hole, but with immense force to get the same amount of power with less risk. The Eldar are master psychers.
Yeah,
Every
it's
single
so
one of them
cool.
can call upon the warp, and over millions of years they have perfected it so much so that they can weave structures out of it. In some species in the galaxy, they utilize the warp itself for interstellar travel. The Eldar ain't having any of that noise. How about we
Nope.
utilize a fancy alternative mode of travel that is substantially safer than the old ones created
They'll
called
just
the
walk.
webway? What about dying? Miss me with that. We no longer age. And if we do, we can just be reborn like that. Food, water, materials, we make things out of distilled warp essence itself. We sing unreality into cathedrals to dine in. What truly
They're really
could
cool.
the Eldari Empire possibly fear?
Boredom. Boredom.
The Eldari Empire's biggest fear was themselves. With a society so perfect, they wanted for naught. And this led them down dark and dangerous paths. When the base functions of society are no longer a problem for you, you tend to experiment. Perhaps the medium rare steak on your plate would be better if it was elf meat. Hey, I'm not saying we should make cannibalism legal, but like, what's the issue with a little taste? Violent sports is one thing, but how come we don't do sports to the death? I mean, I'm just saying, like, if both participants are willing and clear about it, like, what really is the problem there, you know? Art is in the eye of the viewer, and what is considered art is completely up to the concept of one's own interest. A canvas adorned with the blood of a man wronged is truly the visual poetry that our society needs. Hedonism. With a slow and consistent hedonism, the Eldar slid backwards into debauchery of the sort I cannot discuss on this YouTube video.
You
Murder
cannot.
on
It's
stage, delicacies and drugs distilled from one another, the trade of slaves and concubines, and much worse. The Eldar physiology has their emotions heightened, and they can feel more than a human does. So while it can provide lows of pure despair, it can also provide greater highs than you have ever known. And swinging between the two of them
brutal. I hate
was
it.
the Eldar game. The Warp took notice of this heavily, and it began to react. On a galactic scale, the debauchery and the hedonism of the Eldar race caused levels of warp storm so pronounced and so volatile that it cut off interstellar travel for all those who used it. Communications between planets was removed, and a nightmarish era of old night began. This continued for thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years. The Eldar all but removed from the problems being caused as they entered heights of more and more ecstasy. They needed more and more and more. Nothing was ever enough. More murder, more torture. It's art, it's delicacies, it's life. This silence offends Slaanesh. Wait. Slaanesh, the Prince of Pleasure, she who...
I haven't seen this art. Is that a boob with a face? There's a face there that's hips. That's a boob, I think, with a face on it. Okay, good to know.
Thirsts, the god of unspeakable excess, is our fourth chaos god with the sacred number of 6 adorning their title. Slaanesh is a bit of a tricky one, because with our other 3 chaos gods, there was a certain understanding of human emotions and desires, but for Slaanesh, that desire is how they get their power. The words to be used would be decadence, pleasure, perfection, passion, excess, and many others. The way he said excess there. The want to do more, experience more, become more. That's what gives Slaanesh their gifts. A lot of people believe that Slaanesh is something that originates with sex, specifically, and it makes sense why they assume that. The visuals of Slaanesh patrons are all very lithe and sexual, but they are also intentionally androgynous to appear attractive to a variety of intrigues. However, to think that Slaanesh specifically derives from sex would be mistaken. While it is true that a lot of humanity's actions can relate to getting laid, and Slaanesh is...
Do tricks on it. No. No. That's terrible. That's terrible. That's so bad. Oh, okay. That's so bad. What the heck, man?
Is the dark prince of desire. It's more on the lines of feeling an excess of an emotion. It is excessive touch and scent and desire, and a lot of that has to do with sex. That's why it looks like sex, but it's more than just that. A patron of the arts may feed Slaanesh, one that aspires to become the perfect chef or master of their craft, and the sheer pursuit of that alone will feed Slaanesh. Whiplash is Slaanesh's absolute favorite film. Videos where people beat Elden Ring on a dance pad feed Slaanesh.
There are no 2 words in the English language more harmful
Then good job.
But is there a line?
No, man, no.
This also moves into the concept of feeling. Sensation is a majorly Slaanesh-coded thing. It might start off feeling good, but then you get to play around a little bit, you know? You play with a little bit of pain. Light pain might not be enough, so you might want more. Or inflicting the pain could be your jam. Music can increase to volumes that may hurt your ears, and even then that might not be
Ouch,
enough.
my ears, ouch, my ears,
More.
ouch, my ears.
You must have more. Many of the disciples...
I wish I could talk to more stuff about chaos. I don't know enough about it. I don't really like chaos as a whole. So I wish I could talk to it more, be like, oh yeah, like this, and this, and I could tell you like cool stories, but like I just can't. I wish I could, but because I like being able to talk about like Necrons, like, oh yeah, these are the cool little things that I know, but I know nothing about chaos, so I sit here and my brain's like, yeah, I hate them, they're terrible. All right, that's it.
of Slaanesh carry a demonic form in their lithe grace. The Keeper of Secrets is his chosen envoy, and their movements are a blur of dance and pain with an aura all the more fatal. They dance and sing, but there's always a form of malice behind every action they take. An alluring gaze that will pull you in right before the demonic entity can crush you in that grip. Slaanesh's palace has 6 layers surrounding it, and one of them is the excess of gluttony, where the participant finds themselves in a beautiful banquet full of the most delicious foods imaginable. Tables of delicacies and rivers of wine tempt the user to such degree that they cannot stop stuffing their face, unaware that the things they are eating are very vaguely familiar meat. If one does not see themselves drowning in the river of wine, they may soon fill their bodies up so much that they cease to function and fall over, becoming part of the banquet themselves. That is one of these 6 layers of Slaanesh's palace. This.
I did not know about that. That is awful. That is, that's terrible. That's so gross.
Was the ecstasy that the Eldar civilization indulged in for millennia, and did so at a monumental scale that they create a god from it. Find pleasure in every moment, indulge in every whim, let lesser races feel the burden of their crude lives. We are beyond such concerns or worries. Every power is ours to use, every sensation ours to experience. We are truly masters of the galaxy, and all others exist only to satisfy our curiosities. We have earned our position of power. Let us forever taste the fruits of such achievement. Time itself is ours to command. We are eternal. With the birth of Slaanesh, the Eldari Empire ceased to be. A catastrophic event so horrible that the warp ripped a hole permanently in our reality. A fissure.
So you could say Slaanesh tore us a new one. Could you say that they tore us a new one? Yeah, go ahead and clip that. That's fine. That's fine. That was too good to, like, not pass up.
Forever known as the Eye of Terror. With the sudden inhalation of this god's largest breath, the Eldari souls are a currency to be now collected by she who thirsts. Trillions of Eldar died in an instant. Slaanesh gorging on their souls to satisfy his palate. 99.9% of their entire species died, and the rest are doomed to a fate worse than death. For Slaanesh now stakes a claim on each and every Eldar soul. From the moment they pass on, an eternity of torment awaits them. The remaining Eldar devote their entire lives to stopping this eventuality. Their dying race so devoted to saving themselves from the Dark Prince, and in doing so, have found very creative ways. In the modern world of Warhammer, the craft world Eldar are the main force of
The
Eldar
coolest
in the galaxy.
bit of
and
Eldar, I
represent
think.
the elf style that many think of when you think elves in space. Fantasy elves in space, not those elves. We'll get to them. A craft world is a monumentally large starship, the size of a continent, that acts as a form of flotilla. During the highest reaches of hedonism, many Eldar saw the demonic writing on the wall and began to try and seek asylum from their own debauchery. Those Eldar left on monumental craft worlds into the far reaches of the galaxy,
made out of
saved
wraith bone
themselves
and other
from
things, if I
Slaanesh's
believe.
awakening. The main thing the craft world Eldar seek is to temper their minds and bodies in a way that will never allow them to slide back into their old ways. The representation they carry is that of a more feudal Japanese motif. Eldar follow paths as they age, the path of the warrior,
that's kinda cool.
the
I didn't know
seer,
that.
the poet, the diplomat, the bone singer, and so on. These paths are a strict code of conduct to hone the heightened Eldar psychology down a school of thought and action. And if it sounds a hell of a lot like Bushido, well, you're damn right. Here's a medal and a soul stone. Don't lose it or an eternity of torment awaits you. Going through these paths will allow you to take up not just a role in Eldar society, but keep your mind clear from the past worries that plagued them. Every Eldar is said to be a psyker, however, very few of them actually utilize their psychic powers for fear of tempting she who thirsts.
Yeah,
a
I would
large
want
amount
to
of emphasis is also
And she is into temptation. Let's make that very clear. You don't want to tempt she who thirsts, because she kind of likes it.
put on ancestors of the Eldar and learning from them the farther you go down a path. This can sometimes be seen by the large variety of jewels adoring the armor of Eldar. Those are called soul stones, the biggest middle finger to Slaanesh they can think of. See, when an Eldar dies, these stones act as a backup, and instead of their souls going to Slaanesh, they are then trapped and stored in this little stone. So when the
zip
Eldar
file.
say they commune with their ancestors, they mean so very literally, as the spirit and soul of generations before them are stored here. Often larger structures may contain vast amounts of soul stones, such as the Infinity Circuit in the craft world itself, allowing the souls of the dead to help power their enormous starship. The young do not desire the discipline of the path, but rather their curiosity drives them to try every fruit from the tree. Thus, it is that so many take the path of wandering or the path of damnation in their first years of adulthood. And so, the great tragedy of our kind is played out again and again as the number of our people shrink from generation to generation.
Yikes.
These paths, when completed, allow an Eldar to move to the next one, then the next one. However, since this is the grim darkness of the world, many of these paths rely on combat. The Eldar actually had gods at one point. Cain,
They
Vol,
got munched on
Isha,
too.
Azeryan, and so on. These gods are
Not Isha in a jar meme. No way. He brought that up.
aspects of the Eldar pantheon,
Oh,
and while
boy.
many were killed in Slaanesh's creation, their teachings live on. For some, the strongest devotion to the Eldar gods is to join the Aspect Warriors and embody the wrath of Cain, their god of war. While guardians of the Eldar craft worlds are more akin to a trained militia, the Aspect Warriors embody a particular variant of the path. Each are led by a Phoenix Lord, a name passed down from generations and embodying the souls of prior
I want to learn
Phoenix
more about
Lords
the
with
Phoenix
each new
Lords. They
one.
sound really
The
cool,
Howling
but I've never got
Banshees,
into
led
them.
by Jane Czar, Fugin and his fire dragons, Baharoth and his swooping hawks, or Malgan Ra and his dark reapers. Each aspect shrine carries with it the Eldar way of war. Fast, hard-hitting, and incredibly tricksy, for they do not have the numbers to fight in any other way. The craft world Eldar
They
show
gotta
how
be
mangled an empire
tactful.
can be by their own actions. They once ruled the galaxy in an honest, non-hyperbolic way, but in the end, they were bested by themselves. And their most prominent remnants are
It's so funny, and this is not going to be a very you're not going to be like, wow, Aurelia, that's so like astute of you. But a majority of the factions in Warhammer, their main issue is their own egos and their own hubris. That's what's their downfall. The Necrons, humanity, Eldar, like I would say like at least 80% of them they have too much ego and hubris, and they just bring about their own downfalls. It's nothing new. It's nothing new. I was just thinking about it, and I wanted to say it.
Forced to drift aimlessly through the galaxy, trying to save their species from extinction and resist the temptations of she who thirsts. But for some, the party, it's just beginning. Deep within the webway is the city of Kamara. This dark city once existed as a port in the webway that allowed for ease of transport for the Eldar between its various domains. The significance of this city meant that it needed to be a bit more of a neutral territory outside of the jurisdiction of general Eldar law, and therefore it was allowed to self-govern. This did not go well.
No.
The Dark City became the hideaway for all manner of sin. The Eldar race slipped into debauchery on a galactic scale that it birthed a god, and this was the city you went to when that wasn't enough for you. The convenience of being so deep within the webway was that it exists as a blind spot to the horrors of the warp. So while the rest of the Eldar fled the downfall of their species, Kamara kept partying. When Slaanesh was birthed, they were saved the worst of it, thanks to them being nice and neatly tucked away inside the webway. But only somewhat. The Dark Prince did not have a grip around their soul, but the tiniest pinky finger, and they were still pulling. But
just the tip. It was just the tip, right?
Due to their excess hedonism, they found a solution to this problem. If they tormented others, they could temporarily rejuvenate their souls and continue to cheat their inevitable death by placating the Prince of Pleasure. And if they kept this up on the regular, they could effectively become immortal. Thus, the Drukhari were born. Unlike the more stoic elves you see in works of fiction, the Drukhari themselves exist as a sort of analog of the more grim and fiendish elves you find in Norse and European mythology. The Drukhari are soul vampires, but the more basic means to feed are hardly enough to keep them going. This desire to feed is known as the thirst, and to quench it effectively, they have mastered the art of biotechnology and dark sciences to really juice themselves up on the crispy soul sprite from the vending machine called the Galaxy. The majority of Drukhari act as pirates and raiders and slavers. They go into our physical reality and drag people back to Kamara to commit atrocities that go beyond any imaginative torture a human can think of. The Drukhari are organized in various groups throughout the Dark City to accomplish this in a more organized and extremely brutal way. The Cabals act as the main warriors of the city, led by their Archons. Witches and succubi act as entertainment for Kamara in gladiatorial arenas, and the flesh-crafting homunculus keep the Drukhari alive and discover ever increasingly more painful ways to torment their ever increasingly large supply of slaves they are brought. The Dark Eldar see the other inhabitants of the galaxy as little more than cattle, livestock that can be brought to bay or slaughtered at any time. Their fodder, however, is not meat and muscle, but the anguish and despair of the weak. The Dark Eldar do indeed drink blood, but also tears, and most sustaining of all, the raw essence of pain they wring out of their captives. The truth of the matter is that Drukhari sustain themselves on the suffering of others, not just morally, but physically. Kamara is a city rife with backstabbing schemes and murder. It is the worst back alleys of the worst ghettos at the best of times. Nothing is more horrifying to a Drukhari than death, for death will see them in the talons of Slaanesh for an eternity of torment. So they do everything they can to stop this. The homunculi covens regrow dead members from pieces of flesh as bargaining chips. The succubi create grisly gladiatorial spectacles that literally rejuvenate the audience members as captives are murdered for sport. To be captured by the Drukhari is one of, if not the worst fate imaginable in the world of Warhammer 40k.
It is.
In a universe built On war crimes, they are the most debased war crimers of all time. To be tortured and sacrificed in the gladiatorial arenas is a blessing, for you have escaped the fate of being in the fleshsmith's control group, or being turned into a living and breathing piece of furniture for an Archon's quarters. In a cruel twist of fate, a newly born Drukhari does not arrive into this world loving torture. It is something they must grow to love. Grow to appreciate the suffering of other beings in order to survive
that
in
is
the
so
world
incredibly
they have been
like
brought
heartbreaking.
into. If they succeed, they become some of the worst monsters in the known galaxy. A dark reflection to the craft worlders and a taste of what Eldar society was like before the fall. If they do not succeed, they must find purchase elsewhere. Often those will join smaller parts of Eldar society like the Exodites or the Harlequins. Exodites believe in a pre-industrial variant of their society, often retreating to more lush worlds to ride dinosaurs and live off the land. Prehistoric style that I would normally laugh at if they weren't riding dinosaurs like ballers. The Harlequin
cool,
dancing troupe
admit.
are a subsect of Eldar that are more than just a little strange. A carnival of dancing jesters that serve the Eldar laughing god of Kegarak. They arrive never when expected and leave just as quickly. Blurs of light carry their footsteps as they dance their foes into
if you think about it, like they're cool looking, but they're really freaky when you like read about them in the books. Like if you're thinking about like what would make Eldar and like Drukhari laugh in general, and you think about the laughing god, like they're kind of scary. They're like scary clowns, as if clowns couldn't be scary enough as it is, right?
To a grave. Combat is just as much of a joke as it is a play on bloody murder. They travel and aid many other Eldar and sometimes even humanity for reasons we can never understand.
They just do.
Perhaps one day we would have, were they not stripped of their army book and folded into the Eldari Codex. So I suppose it'll have to stay a mystery, or maybe it was one of Kegarak's master plans to get back at she who thirsts and save their species.
We'll never know.
Who could know? Perhaps it was all a sick and practical joke to Kegarak, and he would just find it very funny to watch me fumble the discussion of one human on a tiny blue planet across the galaxy. Oh, speaking of.
Yes, finally.
Before the fall of the Eldar, Earth, or Terra, as it's called, was in ruin. One man who looks to put the pieces back together. Where did he come from? We don't know. Some say he was the result of early shamans. Some say he is the final old one who escaped their species genocide. And those that are smartest know the answer is it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
he revealed himself as the Emperor of Mankind, and he was tasked with the most monumental upheaval of humanity possible. The Eldari's warp fluctuations had...
Everyone's coming in here looking at his pants. What the heck? More pants. Everyone, stop looking at Bricky's pants.
turned the golden age of humanity into old night. Interstellar travel cut off? Check. An AI uprising? Check. Brand new psychers popping up and not knowing how to handle their powers? Oh, check. Demonic incursions? Check. Thousands of years this occurred, and now the Emperor of Mankind showed himself to put the pieces back together. Unifying Terra under his rule, the Emperor founded the Imperium of Man and ruled it with an iron fist. He was the supreme leader and nothing could stand against him. He wished to remove mankind from the yoke of its former failures, and he knew he would be the best leader they could have because he was right. AI banned, religion banned. You did as the Emperor told you, or his Thunder Warriors would put you in your place. That place often being a grave. Now, Terra was thriving, but humanity needed to reclaim its long-lost brethren scattered across the stars. But to do so, he needed those that could build him a fleet truly meant for the reconquering of the galaxy. And so he turned his attention to the red planet of Mars.
Banger music.
Mars and Terra were close allies long before the Unification Wars. Mars was the first world terraformed by humanity and became what would ultimately be the first hive world, an epicenter for industry and technology. The Age of Strife did not treat the Red Planet kindly, however.
No.
Mars was cut off from Terra during this time, and the warp storms that ravaged the planet turned it into an absolute nuclear hellscape. Those who were on the surface were turned into your run-of-the-mill mutant if they even survived the bombings they inflicted on themselves.
It's so bad.
But others were lucky enough to escape beneath the red sands in powerful fallout shelters. These became their generational habitats, but this resulted in extreme reliance on technology and those who could use it. They began to view the technology keeping them alive less as a technological advancement and more of a divine intervention, with those skilled in it as priests. The Martians began to worship the power of the machine, and this resulted in the formation of the Cult Mechanicus, the belief in a holy trinity known as the Three-in-One. The machine god, serving as the spirit who gave rise to all technologies known, the motive force, the deity that gives all life its ability to live, and the Omnissiah, a physical manifestation of the machine god itself. This belief began to manifest in them physically as well. What were once humans began to really mess around with the character creator options, and this tech obsession made them view instances of flesh to be weak and spend their lives removing what makes them human and replacing it with mechanical
customization, right?
Robotic limbs, glowing eyes, mechadendrite arms. What was once a mass of flesh now looks like the back of a router, and the oldest members of the Mechanicus no longer even look slightly human. In addition to this, cloaked over all of their mechanical appendages are robes that reflect the color of their homeworld, the red robes of the Mechanicus. The Cult Mechanicum, now the Adeptus Mechanicus, create a fascinating combination of cultures all birthed into one. Basically, techno-zealot monks. Organic life is the machine god's greatest accomplishment within the scope of the great work. All praise he who is three-in-one. By giving us life within an organic shell, he presents us with the means and opportunity to improve upon physicality, as is his divine plan. He grants us complex weakness so we might learn metallic strength and ascend to his level of machinic perfection. The Emperor's arrival to Mars was very much a walking in with the pizzas while the room is on fire moment.
Oh my gosh,
but to the Mechanicum, they saw his arrival as confirmation of their belief. They took one look at the glowing golden entity that showed up on their doorstep and were like, that's him.
That's the guy.
That's the guy right there. And they immediately accepted him as the Omnissiah. Obviously, showing up and being called Machine Jesus shortly after wiping out all instances of non-Machine Jesus a little bit beforehand is an instance of capital H heresy. But the Emperor saw the bigger picture. Were they strange with how they rubbed unguents on themselves, burned incense, and prayed to machines for them to work? Sure, but that's a lot of production right there.
Yeah.
So the Emperor devised the Treaty of Olympus Mons, a unifying agreement between Terra and Mars. And this union would be permanently etched into the Aquila of the Imperium as the two-headed eagle.
Yeah.
One head for Terra, and the other for Mars. The forces of the Emperor would be supplied with all the technology and weapons they needed to reunite the scattered remnants of humanity under one banner. And the Mechanicum of Mars would be able to keep doing what they were doing religiously and scientifically, so long as they kept up their tithes. This tithe meant total quality control over all technology in the Imperium. Is it a big spaceship? AdMech take care of that. Tanks? AdMech take care of that. The literal bullets in a gun? You guessed it. But unlike the factories of today, the forge worlds of Mars and the creations of the Mechanicum are a bit of a different experience altogether. Instead of a factory on a random given world, the entirety of the planet's surface is dedicated to manufacturing. But that's a little tricky, isn't it? Considering that the usage of silica animus, or AI, is a big no-no, and basically the largest affront to their divine machine god possible. Fortunately, there's a really neat alternative alternative that they've come up with. And that's called a servitor. Incredible devices that can do anything from
gross to look at.
manufacturing, maintenance, basic door operation, even just float around like a helpful little drone.
Toilet servitor.
It's an extremely easy process too. All you need to do is take a human who is dying or preferably an enemy of the state, most likely that one, and lobotomize them, and then reprogram their brains to do exactly what they tell you. They even got little baby versions of them.
Oh,
yay! So now you can.
Well, that's not the same. The cherubs, if I'm remembering correctly, cherubs are like vat-born, so they're not like pure servitors. They're a bit different. Those aren't exactly the same. Some are. Some.
Rest easy knowing that the entirety of the Imperium, because they outlaw AI and learning new tech is heresy, is run on lobotomized slaves. Whether they deserve it or not is unimportant, and whether they can still keep their consciousness trapped in their own minds is another thing entirely.
Oh.
Is showing.
An excerpt from the servitor creation factories. Naked human beings were standing in a switch-packed line between high fences. The manufactorum produced servitors, but it was more akin to an abattoir than a workshop. Every surface was easily cleanable. Servitors with spray units surgically attached to their backs prowled about, hosing filth from slit drains set into the perfectly smooth, slanted floors. As the line slowly advanced, the people were passed through various scanning devices, most of them mounted in ugly, functional arches that let out a constant series of acceptance chimes. Occasionally, one would let out an angry blare, and the indicator lumens would flash red. The rejected person was then swallowed up by a trapdoor opening beneath their feet. From these pits wafted a hideous stench and the grinding sounds of industrial mincers. One rejected man grabbed onto the lip and hung there, arms and hands bloodied, shouting a stream of defiant profanities.
Gosh, that's
Guards
terrible.
lined the grating either side of him and shocked him until he fell. The adepts wouldn't even waste bullets on these people. The trapdoor flipped up, and the next terrified person was ushered forward. Violent metal arms snatched them up and spread-eagled them in the air, and a servitor shearer shaved them all over. At another, they were subjected to a high-pressure counterseptic wash.
I've never read this. I've never heard this description, and I hate it. This is, oh my gosh, I never knew how bad it was.
Whose chemical stink made me choke from 100 feet away. More scanners, more rejects winnowed out. Machines forcibly dressed them in a heavy rubberized garment common to all monotask servitors. These were saggy on them, all one size, until another process shrank them to fit their bodies, where metal cuffs, sockets, and collars bit into vulnerable flesh. The last few prayers gave way to screams at that point, and even the most stoic shouted in pain. They were ushered over a floor, buzzing with power that made them shriek with every footstep. "What's that for?" I asked. "Follicular inhibitor, to stop their hair from growing," he said. Freaking sweet, Lois!
This is why I'm not a Mechanicus girl. I'm not Mechanicum. No, that's not my thing.
As for their scientific pursuits, the Mechanicum believe in the preservation of knowledge above all and the quest to expand it. However, as opposed to just innovating and inventing on their own with their vast technological know-how, they believe that it is a form of tech heresy. You see, because of their religious viewpoints on technology itself, they believe that the instruction booklet itself is just as holy as the Lego set it builds, and to innovate on that without the proper written knowledge is to go against the divine word of the machine god
Lego
itself. All knowledge
Tempris
is already in the universe. You simply need to rediscovering it and attempting to invent something to improve upon divinity is very heretical. Prior to the Age of Strife, humanity was able to populate the stars with devices known as Standard Template Constructs, or STCs. These devices were, as far as we know, supercomputers with the ability to pull up and detail how to create literally anything a startup colony
It's super
would need.
cool.
Essentially, they were devices with the entirety of human technological know-how so that you could make a home
They're
away from home.
incredibly
The Mechanicum
valuable.
will not make anything without an STC. quite literally nothing, because this is the knowledge they seek, and that knowledge is divine. One time, scouts of the Imperial Guard found a functioning STC that provided the schematics on a knife that happened to be a bit lighter and a bit sharper than most other knives. These knives were adopted by 30 Space Marine chapters and were one of the most advanced discoveries of the century. This discovery was so significant that they were each awarded a planet for finding this. A planet for a machine that taught them how to make knives. Due to their religion.
Dude, there's one, I believe it's in the first Gaunt's Ghost novel, First and Only. They found an STC for the Men of Iron, but it was corrupted by chaos. So not only Men of Iron, incredibly heretical, but it was also incredibly corrupted by chaos. And man, it was a dumpster fire. It was a dumpster fire. They had to destroy it because it was not going to do good things for the Imperium, even though it would have been incredibly valuable.
Religious organization, you can probably guess the Mechanicum are organized in a feudal structure with the highest individuals in power being a part of the priesthood. Cream of the crop being the fabricator general of Mars itself, who serves as a high lord of Terra, but also oversees the entirety of the Mechanicum below. Below them are tech priests that oversee the cult for the quest of knowledge and other more straightforward theocracy. Forge worlds tend to operate slightly more independently, what can cause some power struggles within the Mechanicum, because, you know, despite them all being weird robots, they love being given praise. And despite being the manufacturing end of the Imperium...
I mean, who doesn't like being given praise? Come on, everyone likes it to some extent.
They do actually have their own military forces. They have the Skitarii Private Army and all their various 1920s Martian-style mechanisms like Doom Crawlers, Castellan robots, and of course, the Titan Legions, because nothing is cooler than a robot that towers over buildings. Ultimately, their very dogmatic view on technology as a whole has resulted in any innovation becoming absent, thus causing the Imperium to stagnate as a whole. The lack of ambition to create anything new and the wholesale murder of anyone who even tries leads to things becoming derelict. I grow weary of this flesh I was born into, strangely disgusted by its nature. I crave only the cold, clean certainty of steel and silicon, that I might become one with the blessed machine. I do not expect you to understand, you who cling to your flesh as if it were immortal, seeking only to preserve it, to protect it. One day you will see the folly of your ways, and then no doubt you will come begging to my order to preserve you. After the groundwork had been set unification-wise, it was time to start getting things together for the Emperor's great crusade across the stars to bring humanity under one banner. The Thunder Warriors were a perfect fighting force for unifying Terra and Luna, but the galaxy was a whole different thing. You see, these warriors weren't soldiers in the eyes of the Emperor. They were tools, extremely blunt tools used for the fast conquest of Terra. As the Emperor was concerned, the tools you use at home aren't the same ones you take on a road trip. So the Emperor rid himself of his tools in the exact manner you think he did, and he went forward to crafting a brand new tool. One more mobile, more efficient, and ready for his next era of conquest. They shall be my finest warriors, these men who give of themselves to me. Like clay, I shall mold them, and in the furnace of war forge them. They will be of iron will and steely muscle. In great armor shall I clad them, and with the mightiest guns will they be armed. They will be untouched by plague or disease. No sickness will blight them. They will have tactics, strategies, and machines so that no foe can best them in battle. They will be my bulwark against the terror. They are the defenders of humanity. They are my soul.
Yeah, the boys!
And they shall know no fear. The vastness of the Milky Way galaxy meant that the Emperor needed assistance bringing everyone back to the fold. And who better to do this than himself? But since the technology to be in many places at once does not exist anymore, the Emperor decided that it was time to become a dad, the same way Geppetto did, and with far less care. It is not my son, Arkan. None of them are.
I love this
They
quote.
are warlords, generals, tools bred to serve a purpose, just as legions were bred to serve a purpose.
Oh, when I say I love this quote, it sounds really bad, but like it really emphasizes how little he cared about his sons. Because when he mentions Geppetto here, the Emperor talks to Archenland, by the way. The Emperor brings up a story, basically the Pinocchio story, and he's like, what would you call someone, like, what would you expect the puppet to call the man who made him? It's like, father. The Emperor's like, yep, I don't call them son. They call me father.
What a dad. The Primarch Project was started to create charismatic and unique leaders in the Imperial military.
Show me my husband.
The diversity of these eventual leaders meant that
I
each
see him.
one could be
He's over
specialized
there.
for certain circumstances across the galaxy. Depending on the type of conflict, one leader might be better than the other. So instead of forcing one leader to acclimate to a situation directly, it would be better to send a specialized leader and force to handle it. In order to do this, the Emperor used his genetic know-how and maybe a little bit of that forbidden stuff to create these genetically perfect gene fathers that had the ability to serve as his analog directly and also serve as the leaders of the respective Space Marine legions. All 18, that's right, all 19 of his sons were meant to be directly molded by the Emperor himself, despite their genetic differences. And they go as follows in order. Lionel Johnson, Fulgrim, Percherabo, Jagatai Khan, Lehman Russ, Rogel Dorn, Conrad Kurz, Sanguinius.
My husband, my most favorite Primarch ever, Sanguinius. Love this man. He's incredible.
Ferris Manus, Angron, Robute Gilliman, Mortarion, Magnus the Red, Horus Lupercal, Lorgar Aurelian, Vulcan, Corvus Corax, and Alfarius and Omegon. His sons, finalized and crafted to be the warriors he needed them to be, were complete. But he may have decided to do a bit of dabbling with things he shouldn't have.
Yeah, definitely.
And paid a price. Before the Primarchs were ready to go, an intervention by the gods of chaos prevented his plan from being completed as intended. Though the sources vary, the ultimate result of the Chaos God intervention was that all of the Emperor's tools were scattered throughout the galaxy at unknown places.
Yeah, the lore is kind of changes to like who did it, because some say it was Erda, which is a perpetual who was siding with the Emperor, but then some say it was the Word Bearers and Argel Tal, that group of guys that started that. It's not clear.
And times. Each one of his sons ended up in a completely different world, and instead of being able to directly influence their upbringing, these children were instead forced to experience the unique nature of their respective homeworlds. Some had a great time and lived in general luxury. Others...
I mean, he didn't have it bad, but he didn't have the greatest experience ever. Honestly, I would have used Rogel Dorn or Gilliman in this instance, because Sanguinius, it wasn't the best planet, but it wasn't it wasn't the best. There's better examples.
Not so much. Despite his closest advisor, Malkador the Sigillite, saying, "All right, Chief, let's try this one again," the Emperor sensed each of his sons were still very much alive, and one of the primary objectives of the Great Crusade shifted to reclaiming each of his sons so they could take command of their specific Space Marine legions and carry out his
Execution wasn't the
will.
best on that part.
These original Space Marine legions that were created alongside their Primarchs go in order: the Dark Angels, Emperor's Children, Iron Warriors, White Scars, Space Wolves, Imperial Fists, Night Lords, Blood Angels, Iron Hands, World Eaters, Ultramarines, Death Guard, Thousand Sons, Luna Wolves, eventually Sons of Horus, the Word Bearers, Salamanders, Raven Guard, and the Alpha Legion. Space Marines, unlike their gene fathers, the Primarchs, are not made in a vat. There is a process to recruit more members from humanity itself, which seems a bit strange considering how massive a Space Marine is compared to a normal man, but don't forget, the Emperor is really good with genetics. Less good with anesthetic, however. These prospects are recruited across humanity from various reasons and methods, and are generally killed during that process.
Yeah,
but
it's
sometimes
pretty...
they aren't, and they are able to go through more and more of the actual training to assess certain traits that are important and relevant to being a Space Marine. Most of the time, the common factor is a pure unrelenting willingness to kill the enemies of the Imperium. After going through psychological
it's a very good
screening,
trait to have.
the prospect, now called a neophyte, goes under the knife to become a Space Marine. And here is a quick list of all the cool new stuff they get genuinely shoved into their bodies. A secondary heart, an organ that makes your bones grow, an organ that makes your muscles big, an implant that makes your blood stronger, a little organ that turns your white blood cells into super white blood cells, a brain implant that allows you to sleep while being awake, a pre-stomach that allows you to digest literally anything, a spinal implant that allows you to absorb the genetic memories of
Michael Phelps lungs. Incredible.
Of what you eat, bigger and better lungs that can let you breathe underwater, an implant that gives you stronger eyes, new ears that keep you from being dizzy, a brain implant that lets you go into suspended animation if you're in a bad shape, skin that acts like transition glasses, I almost got it in one take, a brand new kidney, the ability to taste the air and find enemies like a bloodhound, a special coating on your skin that allows you to be protected in space, the ability to spit acid, a gland that allows you to absorb the unique genetic makeup from the gene seed in the first place, and a straight up carapace that allows the Space Marine to interface with their power armor directly. Quite often.
Dude, he did his research. Okay, give me 2 minutes. I've been drinking a lot of water. I will be, well, actually it'll be less than 2 minutes. It'll be about 30 seconds in theory. I will be right back. I will be right back. I'm so sorry. I hate to interrupt it, but I will be back in just a moment. We're back. Let us continue.
These are put inside of you at dubious levels of mental alertness and dubious levels of anesthetic. After a more generalized indoctrination into the faith of the Imperium and a bit more training and other important manners, they can finally be welcomed as a fully fledged Space Marine. A Space Marine is quite literally a walking tank that is armed to the teeth. Two of the more iconic weapons held by a Space Marine are their bolt gun, which fires explosive shells the size of soda cans, and a chain sword, which is
secret level.
The Space Marine is clad in a colorful carapace known as power armor, crafted from extremely heavy and durable ceramite. The power armor of a Space Marine protects him from any terrors he may face, be it the void of space itself to an inhospitable atmosphere. This armor, combined almost biologically with an already massive physique, makes the Space Marine an almost unstoppable fighting force. And hell, if the armor doesn't protect them enough, they can always become a walking coffin like the dreadnoughts of the chapters.
We love dreadnoughts.
What truly
They're amazing.
adds to it all, however, is the sheer difference in some of them. While a Space Marine in its own right is an indoctrinated freight train on legs, how they act can be quite different from chapter to chapter. The gene seed of a Primarch is not just helping them become big and strong, but allows them to gain certain traits from their forefathers. Everything from how they think to even slightly adjusting their physical appearance once it's been implanted.
Yeah, like all the Blood Angels become more attractive. Some of them end up looking more like Sanguinius, but they all to an extent are like more beautiful. I like that a lot.
Gene seed can be the personality of an entire Space Marine. Take the Salamanders, for example. Salamanders have a predisposition to fire. as a whole and tend to be extremely large due to the size of their Primarch, Vulcan, and his enormous stature. Whereas someone like Sanguinius, Primarch of the Blood Angels, share more vampiric features and more angel-like qualities. A gene seed is not just aspects of the Primarchs, but they are also flaws too. Magnus the Red.
I just want to say thank you, Bricky. Thank you, Bricky, for plugging the Blood Angels. I appreciate that. As a Blood Angel stan, thank you very much, sir.
And his thousand
I feel
sons
represented.
underwent something known as the Flesh Change, a horrifying mutation that, while it made them strong psychers, would affect their bodies so terribly that they would mutate away from humanity. Where other factions have inspiration for their culture from our real world, like the feudal Japanese of the Eldar or Egyptian style the Necrons, each Space Marine chapter themselves carry an inspiration. The White Scars are motorcycle riding Mongolian fighters. The Space Wolves are Norse Vikings. The Dark Angels are Knights of the Round Table, and so on. This moves into their fighting style, and truthfully, there is no end to the characters and options when it comes to the Space Marines. Space Marines are the main symbol you see, and while many of them can be simply indoctrinated warriors who only care about conflict and can be quite boring, then you meet Dante, or Bjorn, or Argel Tal, or Karn, or Lucius, or Erebus. And then you discover the wealth of these characters and tools of war you can have. For 1100 years, I have fought and I have seen the darkness in our galaxy. I have seen the vileness of the alien and the heresy of the mutant. I have witnessed the sin of possession, and I have seen all the evil that the galaxy harbors, and I have slain all whose presence defiles the Emperor. I have seen what you will see. I have fought what you must fight, and I have slain what you must slay. So fear not and be proud, for we are the sons of Sanguinius, the protectors of mankind. We are indeed the angels of death.
Man, I love
Despite
Dante.
being the poster children for Warhammer 40k as a whole, the presence of a Space Marine is a rare sight for the countless trillions of humans across the galaxy. Seeing one of these monstrosities is like seeing something akin to an angel sent by the Emperor himself. These angels of death are the essential fighting force to bring humanity back under the unified banner of the Imperium. Yet ultimately, the Space Marines are individuals torn from their families and conscripted to genetic modification and lifelong service for the dying Imperium. And though they are held in an almost holy light, most believe they are above and beyond the people they are designed to serve. Once designed as the protectors of humanity, they seldom view humanity as something worth saving. To the extent that it is a tiny, minute rarity, though not unheard of, for a Space Marine to put a normal citizen above them in any way.
There are some nicer
Marines
legions.
and even their Primarchs, they are only here to do a job. They are there to kill the enemies of humanity, and I would be remiss if I didn't add at least one more of my favorite quotes to the tail end of this section. The time for speeches is done, said Rogel Dorn. The first great test is here. My order to you all is simple, yet heed it well, and exert yourselves to see it done. They are coming. Kill them all.
Oh,
well, the space.
Such a banger. Oh my gosh, such a banger quote. Oh, so good.
Marines are the spearhead of the Imperium's Great Crusade and also a major player in its warfare. There is a significant amount of importance that must be taken on their transport. What sci-fi universe would be complete without its navy? When you think of the navy or ships on the open sea, you think of something that is sleek, something mobile, and something pretty big. For perspective, the longest self-propelled ship in history was the TTC-Wise Giant, an oil tanker that was about 458 meters long or over about 1,500 feet.
Wow.
This right here is child's play in the world of 40k ships. A ship that is considered to be an escort vessel in the Imperium is about 3 times the size of a Sea-Wise Giant, and the size of the ships only go up from there. Your most common ships are the cruisers. The light cruiser tends to average at about 2 kilometers long, or
cathedral
just over a
Gothic
mile in
style.
length,
It's so
where
good.
the Dictator class cruisers can be over 3 kilometers or 2 miles in length. The largest ships are your battleships, and they are tremendous. We're talking 5-mile long, half a mile high
Are you talking
monstrosities
Gloriana?
that look like gigantic Gothic cathedrals and filled to the brim with weaponry. And not only are they filled with weapons, but they are also jam-packed with crewmen. Battleships tend to, on average, carry a crew between several thousand to several million, and they need every single one of those members because we don't have advanced technology for other things to pilot themselves or control themselves in a meaningful way because there's no AI. A lot of this stuff has to be done
kind of fair,
manually. Even the reloading of those giant batteries is a form of manual labor. And of course, generally speaking, gliding through the stars is a very slow way to do things. And let's be honest, there can't be a science fiction setting without some form of hyperspace travel. This form of travel in 40k is less like going to Plaid in Spaceballs and more like going into Davy Jones' zipper dimension in SpongeBob.
Oh, now what? I suppose you're gonna show me. Oh, gee, that's very nice. Oh, what is this? Some kind of magic act?
I mean, yeah, that's accurate. Yep, 100% correct.
This is because it utilizes the immaterial warp to do so. Warp travel is handled by a navigator, which is an abhuman. It's a mutated human, don't worry about it. And they have a gene that gives them a third eye and the ability to help steer the ship through the warp, which, as we know, is hell itself and unreality. Now, this might sound exceptionally dangerous, and that's because it is.
Yes,
now,
it is.
the ship does have protection in the form of a Geller field, though. Originally, I assumed the Geller field is what you think it is, a large force field stopping all manner of horrible things, like demons from the warp tearing apart your ship. How wrong I was, though. So space travel through the warp basically involves riding on the Sea of Souls. Hell is real and you can surf on it. So you allow the current to carry you and the navigator to direct. But how can a current of souls and unreality carry you when it doesn't obey the laws of physics, time, or, again, reality? What a Geller field is not a force field, but a comatose imperial psyker dreaming of reality. It is not a bubble. It is a force of reality being projected by mutant Sleeping Beauty to counteract the unreality of the warp that you can then surf on. This, of course, is not a foolproof method of travel, and Geller fields can and do collapse fairly regularly. Being subjected to the warp itself without this Geller field is a terrifying prospect. In the best case scenario, your ship will be torn to shreds, but there are countless instances of ships being thrown out of the warp randomly throughout time itself. You leave for a 2-day mission and you come back 90 years in the past. Maybe you feel like you're lost in the warp for a century and it's only been 45 minutes. And that is only if the waves of souls don't rip your ship apart or have demons arrive on it to do unspeakable things to the crew. The Imperial Navy is an astronomically powerful force for the Imperium because the sheer volume of ships and guns on those ships create firepower that can sunder planets. This is all juxtaposed with the sheer backwater nature of these ships. While they are manned by crews of zealots, they are also operated with such a backwater tech, it completely confuses the reader. You see the long batteries of portside cannons that the ship has, and remember that AI is heresy in this world and that all the mechanics are utilized by lobotomized slaves. So how do they load these? Well, they have gun gangs, massive gangs of hundreds of people manually loading these cannons. These are genuine gun loader gangs that get into gang wars and squabbles. On the ship's bridge, you may find the captain himself hardwired directly into the ship's chair permanently to control it the best they can. Giant screens of hololith data fill the room, and sensors across the ship are just as likely to tell you information as a serf running up to you with a scroll of parchment is. You reach to a microphone to shout orders down a hallway as paper readouts tell you information of the enemy, and holy sigils and candlelit incense burners gleam your next move. While the
it's very aesthetic, though.
Is not a specific faction of the Imperium.
It's incredibly aesthetic.
In the same sense and format of this video, it is what shepherds around the entirety of its armed forces. Every Space Marine Primarch had a flagship, and every strike cruiser and battle barge has a story to tell. But if there is a single thing that the Shield of the Navy does the best, It is to help support and supply the monumental forces of the Imperium.
Yeah.
The hammer of the Emperor himself, the uncountable men and women of the...
Yeah, where my guard stands here.
I don't care if these things have adapted to resist our las guns. If we can't kill them with our rifles, then we'll kill them with heavy bolters. And if we can't kill them with heavy weapons, we'll use grenades. And if grenades don't work, then we'll fight them with our swords and our knives and our bare hands. We'll drown them in our blood.
Cool.
That's what it means to be a soldier of the Imperial Guard. Now follow me. Charge!
Oh, it's so
There
cool.
is no better symbol of the might of the Imperium itself
Sheer
than the
numbers.
Astra Militarum, or as it is commonly known, the Imperial Guard. Though the Space Marines take the glory and stand as the visual representation of the Imperium, their numbers are dramatically thin and specialized in comparison. To reclaim 1,000,000 worlds, you need a countless number of troops willing to fight and die for your cause. The Imperial Guard represents the Imperial truth made manifest. Every year, the worlds of the Imperium pay a tithe in the form of soldiers to fight the good fight of the Emperor, and this number is impossible to pin down. Even saying billions would be a dramatic understatement.
No, it's a huge understatement considering how many planets are involved, and the ties also vary on the planets based on what they're specialized in. But yeah, billions, yeah, quadrillions is probably more accurate.
Volume of soldiers serves as the fundamental backbone of the Imperium. 99.9% of battles fought by the Imperium are fought by the sundering might of the Imperial Guard. With the knowledge that the Space Marines are essentially sentient tanks, what do the members of the Imperial Guard have? If they're the might of the Emperor himself, are they not suited up in a similar way? No. Not really. No fancy suits, no biological enhancements, and basically no expectation to live. Once a regiment of guard are activated, they are sent directly into battle with almost no expectations that they will survive. This is because, despite their training, their incredibly powerful armor, and extremely strong weapons that would crush any army of the modern day, they are so hopelessly outmatched to the things they will face. Sending a member of the
their las guns have killed 99% of all other enemies. They're just unluckily fighting that 1% that doesn't kill them.
Guard is throwing a rock at a nuclear bomb. However, where they lack in advancement, they make up for in sheer numbers, and their overwhelming force can be the difference maker in any deployment they face. Quantity is a quality all its own.
He pulled that from his last video.
If they do happen to survive,
good for him.
they will be sent to the next battle, and so on. Seldom do members of the Astra Militarum get old or retire, and those that do are truly to be feared. There's an old saying that the average lifespan of a guardsman is about 15 hours from deployment, and considering the sheer number of guardsmen out there in any given battle, that number is probably accurate. When several million of your pool of guardsmen die within the first few hours of combat because the orcs threw a moon at you, it can really screw the numbers. The soldiers of the guard are conscripted and trained on an incredible number of worlds in the Imperium, and these worlds can impact their training and their combat style directly. The most famous visually are the Cadian shock troops.
Oh, no, don't cry, Bricky.
But
don't
other
cry,
notable guard factions include the gas mask clad Death Corps of Krieg, the Rambo level of Catachan jungle fighters, and the iron willed Mordian Iron Guard. This also helps them specialize against individual types of enemies. The Indigan Prefects are a special guard regiment that came from a planet whose planetary governor, the leader of the planet, thought it was fun to collect exotic animals, which then crossbreed and then became the giant freight train sized monsters.
Ew. Don't do that. That's disgusting. I didn't know that, and I hate that. That's terrible.
Destroying the planet. So the Indigan Prefects are specialized for big monsters. Hello, Tyranids. One particularly interesting officer in the Guard is the enforcement officer known as the Commissar, and they are one of the more visually striking members of a regiment. These are specialized Imperial officers and act as morale officers. But instead of singing songs to the troops and providing hot meals, the Commissars are there to make sure that the members of the regiment continue to fight to the bitter end. If a soldier does not meet the standards of the Commissar, the solution is simple.
Death.
There are trillions of other soldiers out there. We don't really need you. Combat fatigue? Headshot. Concerns about the conflict? Headshot. Fleeing the battlefield? You bet that's a headshot. Considering that these officers tend to be
You get a headshot, and you get a headshot. Everybody gets a headshot.
outside of their regiment, feelings on them can be mixed. And in fairness, certain commissars, like the esteemed Ibram Gaunt
Yes.
or Caiaphas K,
Yep.
tend to do a bit better with the whole people talking part. Because if, say, you were trying to tell a beefed up Catachan jungle fighter what to do, you might take a mysterious leave of absence inside a carnivorous plant. But no matter what I say, I don't think I can truly convey the sheer might of the Imperial Guard, so I'm gonna get a visual aid. Let's take a look at this image right here, right? This is the cover of the 9th edition Codex for the Astra Militarum, the official cover art. Your eyes may be drawn to the dark and brutal looks of some of the main members on the front and the gigantic orc they are attacking, but zoom out a little bit. There is no floor. There is only people, and behind those people are tanks, and behind those tanks are flying artillery shells. There are 2 enormous transport ships in the sky, and their ramps are down, and
I see this ship here, and now I'm finally noticing this one. Holy moly.
on their ramps are more people.
Wow. Okay, kudos to who did the art, because yeah, I'd never noticed that.
Imperium is described as having 1,000,000 worlds. 1,000,000 worlds. And each one of them gives soldiers to the Imperial Guard for the tithe. On a given battlefield, in a given fight, foot soldiers number in the millions, tanks in the tens of thousands, and you have enough artillery to turn the night sky day. You have walkers and APCs and aircraft and horse cavalry and tanks the size of apartment buildings. You have drop troops and spec ops and rattling snipers and gigantic ogres that can't count to 4, but they can turn you into 4 pieces, and it just doesn't end. Humanity is a horde army, but instead of a horde of bugs or rampaging orcs, it's a living wall of guns. At the end of the day, though he's been ferried through hell on a ship that's 10,000 years old to some godforsaken war-torn rock, though he deployed from high orbit with nothing but a grav chute, though he is one of 10 million men and women snatched from his homeworld to fight a war he barely understands, though he has been given a weapon that fires small suns and may annihilate him as he fires because the knowledge of how it functions has been lost, though his company is supported by tractor tanks that run on anything you can burn, though he wages war against the devouring hive mind, ravenous demons and hordes of hyper-advanced aliens with strange technologies and sorceries he never dreamed existed. No one will remember his sacrifice. There will be no records of his deeds, no glorious parades in his honor, and no remembrance of his name. All he will earn is a shallow, unmarked grave on a forgotten world untold light years from home. Yet for all this thankless sacrifice, a guardsman is a man, just like you. He has no millennia-old genetic engineering, no prophetic leader, no miracles of faith. He has his lasgun, his orders, and those beside him. He is the Imperial Guard, and he will hold the line. In the end, the Astra Militarum, despite fighting for the honor of the Imperium, are their own form of a massive horde army where individuality does not matter. They are merely numbers to the Imperium, and the vast majority of the conflicts they are sent to are attrition-based battles that gain virtually no ground while countless millions die. Yet this makes them the most human. For the Imperial Guard contains normal people, people who are happy and sad, people who laugh and love, and in there are stories, because there is strength in facing the horrors of the universe head on with nothing but a rifle in your hands
and
a prayer on your lips. Armed with an innumerable amount of Imperial soldiers and Space Marines, the Navy begins its great crusade into the stars to rescue the stranded Primarchs and reunite them to their legions. But the biggest question needed to be asked was, what would they find? The age of strife lasted for thousands of years. If a civilization was still alive out there in the galaxy, what would they be like? The technological advancements of humanity
Yeah.
prior to and during the Dark Age technology was unfathomable. It allowed them to spread through the galaxy with ease and allowed them to settle once inhospitable planets. These branches of humanity were provided with the vast knowledge of human creations and were given gigantic machines to make arduous labor and ease. The spreading of these massive colony ships was known as the Long
We're gonna
March,
talk about knights.
and these ships would be retrofitted into settlements upon arrival to their new homes. Accompanying them were the gigantic pieces of farm equipment that served multiple purposes,
We're gonna talk
and the
about
specialized
knights.
pilots that could maintain them. They were not only able to tend the fields and do labor, but when interstellar communication was cut off, they also did a great job of protecting the colonists against both threats demonic and alien. Because of the significance of these machines, those that could pilot them were powerful enough to be considered leaders, and the upkeep and preservation of the machines and the lineage of those who could pilot them was imperative. These machines, over the thousands of years, would eventually be known as the
Yes. I need to paint my knight. I have a
He must
Questor's
be
knight.
humble
I gotta
of
paint
heart,
it.
strong of arm, be savage in war, loyal to hearth, and follow deeds of glory. He must keep honor with all, banish cowardice from his doings, and bring his house no shame. He must serve the emperor and defend the Imperium, thus should a knight rule himself. The Age of Strife caused these colonized worlds to be cut off from the Imperium, and the reversion of these worlds resulted in the reverence for this farm equipment turned feudal, and the leadership that controlled the devices became viewed as a noble hierarchy. During the Age of Strife, exploratory fleets from Mars found plenty of these worlds, and it seemed the majority of them reverted to a similar state. Like King Arthur seeing Merlin himself, these feudal worlds welcomed the Tempris of Mars with open arms. The mutual relationship between the Admech and the nobility was beneficial. The Admech were able to secure more worlds for mining resources and potentially long-lost STC information, and the noble houses were provided with technological know-how and modifications from the Admech themselves. The suits became more and more specialized, and their history as mere pieces of equipment
Knights
lost
are
to time.
so
What was
cool.
once a tractor became a killdozer, and the Imperial Knights were born.
Not
Unlike
killdozer
other military
mentioned.
aspects in the Imperium, the nobility of the Knight houses remains just that, a nobility-focused feudal hierarchy that swears fealty to either the Mechanicum or to Terra. Like the knights in our history, once they swear fealty, they can be called to aid their respective allegiance in the heat of battle. The ones that swear fealty to Terra are led by the High Monarch, while the ones with the Mechanicum are led by the Princeps. The ones with Terra might be sent directly to the front line of war, while the ones with the
didn't
Mechanicum
realize
tend to
that.
be sent to protect the Forge world. And the heraldry of these houses is
I didn't know there was a difference there. Man, I need to read more knight books. I like Assassinorum Kingmaker. It is about the Assassinorum, but it's on a knight world, which is really good. Recommend that book too. It's awesome. I loved it.
what you'd expect from a generic history of knights. Houses pledging allegiances here and there, your run-of-the-mill War of the Roses aesthetic. Except instead of ponies, you have gigantic death machines. These knights can't seem to be piloted by any old person, however. A member of the nobility of any given knight house must go through the ritual of becoming. This ritual involves them sitting on the device used to control the knight, known as the Throne Mechanicum, for a full night. What's wrong with that? I mean, sitting in a chair for a full evening sounds pretty great right about now. So a pilot cannot drive a knight. They can, but it moves about as effective as Ripley from Aliens 2, big, lifter thing. It is, in a sense, a beast that must be controlled, and a pilot must merge with it.
Yeah, they
the
gotta
mind
commune.
of the noble is connected to the machine and must fight with the mental signatures and personalities of the prior pilots as well. Everything a knight experiences in battle is felt by the pilot themselves, be it the general movement in
really
the battlefield or damage sustained by the machine itself. If a knight's leg is blown off in battle, the pilot could experience a broken bone in the same spot. The merging to the machine forever changes the mentality of the noble that experiences it. This connection reinforces a strong degree of nobility and honor in the pilot, and a desire to fight for the glory of their house until the bitter end, as their ancestors' minds are linked directly to the knight. The size of these knights can vary, but generally speaking, they stand in the ballpark of 30 to 50 feet tall and are protected by a thick adamantium armor. Beyond that, they have their own unique ion shield generators that give them added protection, and when it comes to their looks, the most common pattern across the Imperium is the Questoris pattern, and it's honestly the one you're probably thinking about right now. But there are also smaller versions like Armigers and bigger ones known as the Dominus. As for a loadout, these guys are essentially a violent Mr. Potato Head. Battle cannons, Gatling cannons, heavy flamers, thermal cannons, up close and personal,
make mine with a heavy flamer,
gigantic chainsword, or a straight up gauntlet. And for that empty spot up top, screw it. More autocannons, maybe add some missiles. Whatever you can do to make it as over the top as possible, you gotta do it. A squire serves a knight serves a lord serves a baron, and a baron serves a monarch. So who does the monarch serve? He serves every subject, from the rudest serf to the members of the court. Chivalric fealty, when ideally practiced, is not a pyramid, but a circle. Ironically, on the surface, night worlds themselves are one of the least grim, dark settings in the galaxy. Reverting to an ancient time with knights and peasants is almost an escapism from the techno hell of the modern Imperium. But this, of course, doesn't make it great for everyone. It sounds fun on paper to play a game of knights, but it's not so fun when you're the peasant of that.
Get in the night, Shinji! I love that comment. You're based for that. Thank you.
That world. For the knights themselves, the knights give their entire lives to the Throne Mechanicum, and their reality is not their own, as they have to hear the voices of thousands of generations of their ancestors controlling their actions and their lives for as long as they live. It's a strange dichotomy. When it comes to Warhammer, most to all jobs tend to be terrible. However, if there was one that could be considered enjoyable, it would be the pilot of a knight, or a princeps of their larger cousins. While it does contain an egregious amount of hardship to be a knight pilot, you do enjoy a wealth of privilege. A knight pilot is often an asshole who can back it up. The rich noble that, despite his braggadocious behavior, is still very much him, and he will continue to be him. But knights are not the only thing that the Imperium found lost in the stars during their Great Crusade. Due to the circumstances of the Age of Strife, humans were changing and adapting to their new homes they were now isolated on. Some of these humans evolved over thousands of years to adapt to these areas, and they were known as abhumans. Many abhumans found their way into the Imperial Guard or other lesser positions in the Imperium,
you say?
if they were not wiped out immediately for being too different from their human counterparts. But their abilities and appearance vary from planet to planet, and one particular group of abhumans have made quite a name for themselves in the center of the galaxy.
Okay. I'm very excited for all you Voton fans. I don't think he talked about these guys last time, so good for you guys. Good for you.
The origins of what will be known as the Kin start at some point during the Dark Age technology, where their ancestors left a planet that is very much Terra and went to the
because I don't know
galactic
much
core
about them.
to mine it of its resources. They brought along with them everything that they would need for a long-term stay, most important of which were the incredible AI-based supercomputers. Be it guidance, technical or philosophical, schematics, or the ability to upload the memories of a deceased explorer to gather information from them, these computers became an essential part of their everyday life, especially considering that the galactic core is one of the most inhospitable places in the galaxy. It is an exceptionally star-dense location, full of abnormalities, black holes, and sentient hostile nebula. Whatever that last part means, it is not a safe and easy place to make a living, and this only got worse thanks to the warp storms during the Age of Strife. In order to adapt to this area, these travelers perfected a genetic makeup that made their future clones to be more adept to the area. These future clones would be shorter and more robust than their ancestors, and the need to procreate would be unnecessary because why risk messing up a good employee when you can just make a new one? These would be known as the squats, and they would all die, except for when they didn't. And now they are known by a different name. Most void-faring races have at least one cautionary tale of foolish explorers vanishing amidst its blazing stellar nurseries and strange anomalies. Yet for the leagues of Voton, the galactic core has been home now for millennia. These squat humanoids would begin to establish themselves in the core, and their goals would be the same as their ancestors. Rock and stone! But like, actually kinda, yeah. Whenever one of them would die, they would know that that sucker would need to be uploaded to the machines like their forefathers did. But the original purpose of these machines was lost to time. What was once a technical resource for them turned into a ritual known as joining the ancestors.
Oh, that's
cool. And the
cool.
fact that they were clones at this point meant that the same copy of the same individual would be uploaded countlessly. The sheer overuse of these computers and the repeated uploading of redundant data has turned these once powerful supercomputers into your parents' computer after you installed LimeWire on it, and whose
so much bloatware,
50 Google Chrome tabs definitely contain information they will return to one day. So much corruption that these computers began to develop the makings of a personality of their own. These would be known as the Voton, and the kin, this dwarf-like abhuman of humanity, would revere them. The Voton still operate to this day, but the volume of corruption have made anything outside of their very basic functions highly unpredictable. They may not answer a question for centuries at a time, and if they do provide an answer or data, it has become so corrupted and so incongruent that it takes a literal kin wizard to comprehend it. The kin, much like the dwarves of fantasy, exist nowadays as a mercantile species that constantly work to mine and manufacture. However, their capitalistic desires are dangerous. The biggest crimes a kin can face are being lazy, unproductive, and breaking a contract. Stellar conflicts have broken out over hundreds of years due to the breaking of a deal. So if you signed a contract with a kin, you best stick to it. Because of this, the kin have been known to interact with other species in a fairly common manner. This includes humanity, who have met various members of the kin multiple times, but constantly considered them to be all a different species. Famously, the Imperium noted that the kin they referred to as the Squats were their own species and were wiped out by the Tyranids. Little did they know, they were still around. The kin are acutely aware of two things. The first is that the humans of the Imperium are deeply terrified of technology.
Yes,
so the sheer existence of the
100% true.
Voton is a secret as well as the truth. This extends also to the Iron Kin, sentient robots that are treated in the same esteem of flesh and blood kin, because kin is kin. The second thing they are aware of is where they're from.
I love that very subtle meme reference there. Kin is kin. Well done.
They are fairly confident that they are from Terra, and they know that if this secret was to be known by the Imperium, that the Imperium might want to take ownership of them and everything they've built. So the more alien they are, the better. Now, this sounds fine and good, right? What could possibly be wrong with these guys besides the hyper late stage space capitalism? Well, we have to go back to their creation. The kin are an entirely clone-based race made from the computers that are exceptionally difficult to recreate. These machines, the Voton, are becoming more and more unpredictable and derelict. If anything were to happen to these machines, it would be a twofold ending of the kin. New kin cannot be reproduced, reducing their numbers,
that's bad.
and the existing kin would have no further purpose because the end that awaits them would be non-existent. The horror of the kin civilization is that the entire purpose of their lives is to do the
I
best
need to
they
read
can
some books
at their
about
duty
this.
and upload all they know to the Voton, their ancestor cores, join their ancestors. But doing so is actually the thing that is killing these supercomputers in the first place. The ancestors were dead, but through the first truths, their legacy continued. And though their eyes had shut long ago, indeed the ancestors were watching, not with a gaze from eons
there's only
gone,
one book?
but with the eyes
That's
of
a
every
shame.
living kin. Each generation was the embodiment of the ancestors cast anew by the Voton. The galaxy changed. Stars died, planets were destroyed, and civilizations fell. But as long as the Voton endured, the ancestors still lived. I do want to end this last bit with an enjoyable quote from one Kim. As you may have assumed, the Leagues of Voton are space dwarves with a corporate sci-fi motif.
Okay,
but they
yeah.
are still very much dwarves. They're squat, they're strong as hell, and they hold serious grudges. This time it's just more about your contracts
Book
than
of
anything
Grudges.
else. And so because of this, they might treat most things about
going in the
how
book.
you would expect a capitalistic dwarf would treat things. You misunderstand, human. I am not here to debate. I am not here to compromise. What you see as yours, I am taking for my kindred.
Oh.
You want to bargain? Torek, unholster our means of negotiation.
Yes. Oh, that's
As the Great
awesome.
Crusade continued, humanity would find their missing Primarchs, reestablish the locations of all of their various worlds, and finally reclaim what the Emperor was always hoping for. But eventually, all the Emperor sought to build would be his undoing. His original attempt to have all of the Primarchs lead his great armies and usher humanity into the better ages would end up crumbling down. And we will learn about how the Imperium backslides and the horror of the modern day of 40k
Yes.
in part 2. I will see you very soon.
Good job.
Thank you so much for watching.
Good job. Dude, that was so good. Please go follow Bricky on all of his channels. This is his streaming channel. This is regular channel. Use code Bricky when you're getting his Bricky Gamer Subs merch. That was so good. Oh my gosh. I love that. I actually think, let me check something really fast. Let me do a thing. One moment. Oh, good. Oh, good. Here's what we're gonna do, guys. Let's all go and tell Bricky how much we liked this video. He is, from what I can see, he is live right now. He's live, and we should give him all of the love because that, come on. Let's see, he's, one second, I'm trying to pull up his, there he is. Ah, okay. Well, I can't raid from him on the YouTube side. He's got like settings up, so that's fine. We can simply, let's see, yeah. So we will go raid Bricky. I can't redirect you on YouTube. I apologize, but if you go to Bricky episode 2, that is, you can go raid him on that side. So thank you everyone for joining. This was a fantastic video. Please check him out. This was so good. I cannot wait till the second part comes out where we're going to talk about orcs, Tyranids, and other things. My brain has stopped working, but we're going to talk about so many other alien races, probably Tau. And I'm sure there's a couple that are escaping me that he's going to get into. So I will leave it at that. Thank you everyone for joining me today. Please join the Discord if you haven't. We talk about all the fun Warhammer stuff there. Yeah, it's a great time. Lots of nerds in one place, and it's a really nice community. I'm really happy we have it. So I will let you all just enjoy the rest of your day. We're doing some Dawn of War tomorrow. Winter Assault, and I am gonna suck at that. But I will see you guys tomorrow. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you later. Give Bricky all the love, comment, like on his video, like do everything, okay? All right, guys, I'll catch you later. Make sure you do your leg day, okay? Bye, guys.